Mr. Speaker.
E te atua kaharawa, ka tuku whakamoimati atu mātou mōna karakia ko waihotia mai ki runga i a mātou. Ko waiho i o mātou pānga whaioro katoa ki te taha, ka mihi mātou ki te kingi me te inoi atu, mo te arihitanga i rosi o mātou whakaaroarohanga. Kia mōhio ai, kia whakaiti ai tā mātou whakahaeringa take o te wharenei. Mo te oranga, te maungaronga me te aroha o Aotearoa. Āmene.
Members, I'm sure you want to join with me in welcoming Mr. Ray Stevens, Chair of the Queensland Parliament Ethics Committee. Two petitions have been delivered for the clerk to present.
Petition of Danny Tahu Job requesting that the House acknowledge Mahuru Māori as the concentrated celebration and promotion of Te Reo Māori, replacing Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori. Petition of Juliana Carvalho requesting, on behalf of Access Matters Aotearoa, requesting that the House pass a new bill to provide for accessibility for New Zealanders.
Those petitions stand referred to the Petitions Committee. No papers have been delivered. A Select Committee report has been delivered for presentation.
Report of the Finance and Expenditure Committee on the international treaty examination of the agreement between New Zealand and the Republic of Slovenia for elimination of double taxation with respect to taxes on income and the prevention of tax evasion and avoidance.
No bills have been introduced. The House comes to oral questions. The first in the name of Mike Patrick. Point of order, the Honourable Simeon Brown.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave to make a personal explanation to correct a statement I made in an urgent debate on Tuesday the 4th of March.
Leave is sought for that purpose. Is there any objection? There appears to be none.
In the urgent debate yesterday, I misspoke when speaking about former Minister Michael Wood. The former Minister was told, I said that the Minister was told 17 times by the Cabinet Office to sell his Auckland Transport shares. I should have said 16 times for his Auckland Airport shares.
Thank you. Mike Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what are the government's priorities for budget 2025?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Nicola Willis.
The government's four priorities for budget 2025 are lifting economic growth through measures to address long-term productivity challenges, implementing a social investment approach, keeping tight control of government spending while funding a limited number of policy commitments and cost pressures, and developing a sustainable pipeline of long-term infrastructure investments.
Supplementary. What are examples of policy commitments that will be funded in the budget?
Mr. Speaker, the government has already announced a significant policy commitment for budget 2025. That is the commitment of $1.37 billion a year from 2025 onwards to meet demographic, volume and price pressures for frontline health services. In total, that comes to an additional $5.48 billion for Health New Zealand over the forecast period. Agreeing this very significant increase in funding ahead of time gave Health New Zealand certainty in its planning and demonstrates the government's commitment to delivering the healthcare New Zealanders need.
Supplementary. Has the government announced any other funding for health ahead of budget 2025?
Mr. Speaker, yes. Budget 2025 provides just over $1 billion of extra funding over the forecast period for additional medicines, including cancer treatments. And on Monday, the government announced measures to boost primary care, including increasing the number of doctors and nurses in primary care and a new 24/7 digital healthcare service for online appointments. These new measures will also be funded from budget 2025. Mr. Speaker, there is a myth propagated by the PSA and others that health funding is being reduced. Nothing could be further from the truth. Billions of dollars of additional funding are going into health to help ensure Kiwis have more access to the care they need, where they need it.
Supplementary. How will this additional health funding fit within the government's operating allowance?
Good question. Well, Mr. Speaker, the government has set an operating allowance for budget 2025 of $2.4 billion. That is a tight allowance aimed at restricting growth and expenditure and reducing New Zealand's structural budget deficit left to us by the last government. It is important to remember, though, that allowances are a net concept. They encompass savings and revenue initiatives as well as new spending. More savings, therefore, in the budget equals more opportunity to invest in frontline services. That is called reprioritisation, for the benefit of members who did not experience this concept when they were last in office.
The Honourable Marama Davidson. The Right Honourable Chris Hapkins.
Mr Speaker, yesterday you asked members on this side of the House to show a little more restraint. We have done so today. That would also involve you requiring government members...
There is a requirement that you're quiet during a point of order. Start again.
I think yesterday you asked us to show more restraint on this side of the House, and you'll note today we have done exactly that. I think a reciprocal expectation is that ministers will actually stick to the rules around government questions and not use them to attack the opposition. Almost every one of the answers delivered by Nicola Willis did exactly that. You didn't get a reaction from us because you asked us not to do.
You're certainly not wrong, Jamie, but
Yes, I did certainly take note of it.
maybe I'll go see if I can find anything when this is
As I
finished.
said before, where there is a reference to something from the past that affects the policy today, that's reasonable. But I do think that the commentary that suggests otherwise and questions motives of the other side of the House are unacceptable. And I'd ask all other ministers who are about to answer questions today to bear that in mind.
Speaking
Right Honourable Chris Hipkins. Sorry, Chris Bishop. I presume there's a new point of order, given I've just ruled on that one.
Speaking to the point of order. Mr Speaker, politics is about comparing...
It has to be a new point of order. I've just ruled on that one. So, new point of order.
Point of order. Sir, politics is about comparing and contrasting. It is very difficult to answer questions as a government without drawing some comparison to what has gone before or indeed what is coming into
Well,
the
I'll stop
future.
you there, because the last part of the last answer referred to something the previous government had not done, and I don't think that's particularly reasonable in the circumstances. Well, hang on, that didn't help either.
No one believes you.
No, that didn't help at all. So we're now going to go to question 2. Point of order, the Right Honourable Winston Peters.
The rightful complaint from Mr Parker is that he's put the very issue back at the centre of this parliamentary behaviour, and he's quite right. What you're saying is no criticism at all can happen. I mean, what happened to sticks and stones can break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And over there, so sensitive, every little issue.
No, that's not the issue. That's, with all due respect, just a minute. With all due respect, that completely misses the point I was making. Question 2, the Honourable Marama Davidson.
To the Prime Minister, e tautoko ana ia I ngā kōrero me ngā mahi katoa a tōna kāwanatanga.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Yes, and especially our action to make it easier for Kiwis to get access to the healthcare that they need. This morning, our excellent Minister of Health, Simeon Brown, announced more support for nurses so they can play a greater role in primary care. And that comes off the back of action yesterday to train more doctors here at home, including in primary care. And on Monday, we announced action to support more nurses into primary care, making it easier for international doctors to practice here and introduce a whole system of digital 24/7 care. Kiwis deserve to be able to see a doctor as quickly as they can. We're working hard to make that a reality, and I would have thought the opposition
How
would
bloody
want to support
petty is that from Marama Davidson and the Greens?
Does he
just
agree
asking
that
questions in
regardless
Māori
of
now?
socio-economic status, a meal at lunchtime is a basic level of collective care that should be afforded to all tamariki?
Bugger off with your collectivism nonsense.
What I believe is that we need to help kids who are coming to school with no lunches, and that's why we saved the school lunch program that was unfunded, and that's why we're making it, we've got some challenges, but we're working our way through them.
Does he agree that providing school lunches is an important collective response and one that is far more helpful than vilifying parents and families doing it tough?
Well, what I'd say in the last 24 hours is the vilification from the Labour and Greens who are telling parents who actually working parents across New Zealand happen to give their kids a Marmite sandwich and apple each and every day are bad parents is not acceptable.
Does he agree with Mana College principal Jeff Chapman that the previous school lunch program, quote, was a nice little circular local economy and it was working great. The contractor was providing local employment and using local food, and if so, can he tell the House how many people have lost their jobs as a result of his government's changes to ka ora ka ako?
Well, what I can say is that we are actually funding the school lunch program. We are feeding more kids than the previous government did. We are doing so more efficiently, having saved $130 million, which has been put back into health and education for our kids. So I think it's a win-win. We've got some challenges to work through. The Minister will deal with that.
Supplementary, the Honourable David Seymour.
Is the Prime Minister also... I beg your pardon, Mr Speaker.
Your own side was pretty rowdy then, so we'll start again.
Sure. Is the Prime Minister also aware that the previous government had left no money in the budget for that nice little circular economy from 2025 onwards, and how has this government responded to that fiscal cliff?
Well, I thank the member for their excellent question, because that is...
Oh, shut up, you liberal
I thank the member
weakie,
for his excellent question, because that is exactly the case. The parties that, that's playing to advocate for those that most need food didn't fund the program. We fund the program and we extended it to more kids.
Speaker?
Supplementary question, the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins.
How many free school lunches programs could be funded for the cost of the tax cuts the government gave to landlords?
Well, I think the member is conflating
How many Marmite
two
sandwiches
very
could be
different
paid
issues.
for with those bloody
Because
tax-
what I'm proud about is actually rents under this government are stable, not up $180 per week. What I'm comfortable about is that house prices didn't increase 40 to 50%. And what I'm comfortable about is actually social housing wait lists are going down and kids in emergency housing are out of motels. Nothing that the Labor government could sort out, despite the much vaunted equity of housing, which they don't own anymore.
And that question demonstrates how difficult it is at times to work out both the value of a question or that the intent of a question and the likely answer.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Point of order, Nancy.
Oh, my goodness.
Mr Speaker, I think the mic for the Prime Minister is actually not on, so most of the MPs sitting here cannot hear him at all.
Well, some people might thank the Lord for small mercies, but I will ask the technicians to have a bit of a look at what's going on. Chloe
I know, his mic
Point of order,
sounded
Mr Speaker,
fine.
thank you. There has been much discussion in this House about truth, and we are not allowed to say the word.
Says
that
the one
denotes
wearing
the
a tea
opposite
towel.
of that, but I am requesting your guidance when the Prime Minister is stating things on the record such as rents have been stable, when the facts demonstrate the clear opposite of that, what we are to do.
The member knows that if there is a concern about that, there is a remedy for her in standing orders, and that would be the best way to deal with it. Marama Davidson.
Will he stop pointing fingers at his ministers and take responsibility as Prime Minister to feed our tamariki?
Well, we are. We have a school lunch program. We have said that, and the Minister's said himself that the food is in some cases not up to scratch. He's making sure he holds those contractors to account. He's working through the issues. I've got every confidence that he will do so. I do take responsibility and I have clear accountabilities on my ministers, and that's what I expect to happen.
Supplementary.
The Honourable David Seymour.
Is it the view of his government that good words and good wishes must be backed up by a fiscally sustainable plan to actually pay for the government's programs? And does he believe it's credible to have all those good words and good wishes but no plan to afford them?
I concur. The beautiful land down under where Marmite or Vegemite is your good sandwich. Couldn't agree more. And how about this for rent increases? $10. Oh yeah, at least in January.
Make the list. We're fixing it.
Yeah, I'll just make the point that it's... we'll move on. Marama Davidson.
Supplementary. Will he commit to continuing ka ora ka ako?
I commit. The Minister is very committed to making sure we make the school lunch program work and we get what we have contracted for. But as I have said before, we will continue to provide children who need lunches, a school lunch program. It's important because we know the evidence is if they don't have food, they don't learn and they end up on welfare. That's not great.
And yeah, Jackson Kennedy making a great point here that her whole line of questioning is based upon the idea that it is primarily the government's responsibility to feed children when that responsibility lies first and foremost with parents. That's exactly right. It's a ridiculous line of questioning.
Yes, and especially our action to support Kiwis with the cost of living. 2 years ago,
Okay, no need to insult us, Krista.
Today it's 2.2%. 2 years ago today, the official cash rate was 4.75%, and today it is 3.75%. 2 years ago, food inflation was 10.3%, and today it's just 2.3%. Now, it's an encouraging sign that we're making progress. We know there's a lot more for us to do. And the best thing that we can do is grow the economy so that we can create those jobs, lift incomes, and actually create opportunities for more Kiwis so they've got more money in their pocket. That's what's important.
Supplementary. On what day and at what time did he first discuss allegations that Andrew Bailey had a physical altercation with a staff member with Andrew Bailey?
As I have previously said, I was made aware of the issue on Thursday, and Andrew Bailey resigned very late on Friday.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker. I didn't ask him when
No idea, Jamie, probably the tooth fairy or something.
I asked him when he first discussed those allegations with Andrew Bailey.
Ask the question again.
On what date and at what time did he first discuss allegations Andrew Bailey had a physical altercation with a staff member with Andrew Bailey?
My office had conversations with Andrew Bailey on the Wednesday and the Thursday, and I discussed with Andrew Bailey on the Friday.
When did he formally receive Andrew Bailey's resignation as a minister, and in what form was his resignation delivered?
It was a phone call very late on Friday evening.
Did he indicate to Andrew Bailey that if he didn't resign, he would be dismissed? If so, when did he do that?
No, as I have said publicly, Andrew Bailey resigned, and he did make the right decision.
If Andrew Bailey resigned on Friday, why didn't he inform the Governor-General of that resignation until Monday? And does he believe that fulfills his legal obligation to,
I feel like he made it on a
keep the
Friday
Governor-General
night,
fully
Monday's
informed
to the
about
start
the
of work
general
hours.
conduct of the government?
Yes.
Did he ask Andrew Bailey what he did to the staff member who made the complaint? And was Andrew Bailey's account consistent or different from the account of the staff member?
Andrew Bailey talked in his statements about the incident, and I've got nothing further to add to that.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
This is a serious matter in which the Prime Minister has indicated that if Andrew Bailey hadn't resigned, then he would have fired him. I have asked him whether he asked Andrew Bailey what he actually did in order for the Prime Minister to lose that confidence in Andrew Bailey, and whether that is consistent with the victim of Andrew Bailey's physical altercation. This is a fairly important matter of public importance. Where a minister has lost their job, I don't think it's unreasonable that the Prime Minister actually addresses that question.
In answer to the first part of the question, yes.
The Honourable Winston Peters.
Prime Minister, will you explain to Mr Hipkins that the constitutional connection of the Governor-General only happens when he, as Prime Minister, first accepts the resignation?
I'm comfortable that we have handled the constitutional arrangements well.
Supplementary question.
Amateur hour.
Is there still an open investigation into the complaint about Andrew Bailey's physical altercation with a staff member? If so, who's conducting that investigation?
Well, there were concerns raised. The Minister reviewed the incident. It didn't meet his expectation, and he has resigned.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. The question, can I repeat the question, Mr Speaker? I mean, is there still an open investigation into the complaint
Winston's a busybody,
about
isn't
Andrew
he?
Bailey's physical
Feel
altercation
like just
with a
yesterday
staff
as
member?
overseas.
If so, who's conducting that investigation?
Andrew Bailey has relayed the incident in public statements. He's apologised to the relevant staff, and he has subsequently resigned.
Point of order, Mr Speaker. Again, it's a fairly significant matter of importance to the public when a minister resigns in the circumstances that Andrew Bailey did. If there is an ongoing investigation into this matter, then the Prime Minister has a duty to tell the public that. It's a fairly straight question.
That is a fair point.
Well, I'm not going to comment on individual employment matters. It's a privacy issue, and actually it's up for Ministerial Services to take it forward from there.
Question 4. Sam Uffendale.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Health. What recent announcements has he made on improving access to timely, quality healthcare for all New Zealanders?
Mr Speaker.
The Honourable Simeon Brown.
Good news for Kiwis this week, Mr Speaker. Our government is delivering on our commitment to improve access to timely, quality care for all New Zealanders. This week I've announced a significant healthcare boost to ensure Kiwis see a GP faster, including a range of actions to ensure overseas trained doctors can work in New Zealand. Also announced more locally trained doctors in general practices, including increasing the total extra medical school placements to 100 each year over the course of this government. We're also boosting our nursing workforce by training more nurse practitioners and supporting advanced education for nurses in general practices. These initiatives will help strengthen the healthcare workforce, reduce wait times and ensure Kiwis can receive the timely, quality healthcare they need.
Supplementary. Why is the government increasing the number of overseas trained doctors working in primary care?
Well, Mr Speaker, we recognise the need for more doctors working in our healthcare system, which is why we are funding a new 2-year primary care training program for up to 100 additional overseas trained doctors. It doesn't make sense that overseas trained doctors living in New Zealand are keen to work in primary care but lack the training opportunities to do so. By funding 100 clinical placements, we will offer the necessary support to help them work in general practices where they're needed to help give Kiwis the timely, quality access to healthcare they need.
Supplementary. What is the government doing to increase the number of placements at New Zealand medical schools?
Well, Mr Speaker, to reduce wait times for New Zealanders, we can't just rely on sourcing our doctors from overseas. We must also ensure a sustainable pipeline of New Zealand-trained doctors. Under our government, medical school placements have already increased by 75 places each year. Wow. Increasing this to 100 places will provide more opportunities for talented Kiwis to train as doctors and help ensure New Zealanders have access to timely, quality healthcare that they need.
Supplementary. Why is the government increasing the number of training places for nurse practitioners in primary care?
Well, Mr Speaker, nurse practitioners are highly skilled professionals who can diagnose conditions, prescribe medicines and develop treatment plans for patients. By increasing the number of training places to 120 a year, we're empowering more nurses to work alongside our hard-working GPs and deliver timely, quality healthcare in local communities. This investment will ensure more patients are seen sooner, easing pressure on the system and reducing wait times for New Zealanders.
The Honourable Barbara Edmonds.
Mai taki mata, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Finance, does she stand by her statement that she is looking at, quote, changes to strengthen transparency and fiscal responsibility, unquote? If so, is she confident that the fiscal risks in Budget 2024 are manageable?
Mr Speaker, yes, I was shocked on becoming Minister of Finance at the magnitude of unfunded fiscal risks left by the previous government, such as Lake Onslow, the Income Insurance Scheme, Auckland Light Rail. I was also shocked by the large number of fiscal cliffs left in the accounts, where funding for an initiative had only been provided for a limited period, despite a clear public expectation of it continuing, like Pharmac essential medicines. And to the second part of the question, fiscal risks are by definition uncertain. They may or may not occur. If they do, they will be managed, and the government has choices about how to do that.
Supplementary. Does she stand by her statement in relation to the Cook Strait ferries that, quote, costs are expected to be much less than would have been the case with Project IREX, unquote, and if so, what will the cost of the fiscal risk, Cook Strait resilience, be?
An answer to the first part of the question, yes, and an answer to the second part of the question, that depends on the procurement approach and commercial negotiation yet to occur.
Supplementary. How can she be confident that the alternative will cost less than the previous project when her cabinet paper said the required port infrastructure, quote, cannot be confidently costed, unquote?
Because, Mr Speaker, the point of comparison is Project IREX, the biggest dog of an infrastructure project New Zealand has seen in many years. That blew out members from $750 million to $4 billion and climbing, with only 21% of the costs actually being for the core project of replacing the ferries. That project was terrible and was getting worse, and by stopping it, we have saved New Zealanders money.
Supplementary
question. Go three over here. We'll go three over here. We always do three. 3 supplementaries for the primary person answer. Well, because it's a little rule I put in. And, about a year ago.
Supplementary. Does she agree with the Minister for Rail, who said the break fee, quote, costs us way less than 300 million, unquote?
I find it is wise to agree with the Minister of Rail.
The Honourable Winston Peters.
Is the Finance Minister confident that when this is all resolved, the savings to the New Zealand taxpayer, based on Treasury's latest prediction, will be in excess of $2 billion?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm delighted to hear that. The Minister for Rail has these matters in hand. And I would acknowledge, Mr. Speaker, that even Grant Robertson was concerned by the ballooning cost of Project IREX. In fact, in a letter he sent to the Kiwi Rail chairman in 2023...
I think, just a minute. It might be all right in response from a government question, but its standing orders is very clear, 1813. It's not reasonable for a government question to be asked that leads to an attack upon a previous government. It's not my ruling, it's once been there for a long time. Well, I can feel it coming. Barbara Emmons?
Supplementary.
Eh? I beg your pardon? Yeah, well, that's... I'm sure they're well aware of the comment. There you go.
Supplementary. Does she agree with the Minister for Rail that Treasury's prediction that this will save $2 billion? Can she confirm that?
Well, as I just said, I find it's always wise to agree with the Minister for Rail.
How can she be confident the fiscal risk is manageable when she has no idea how much the new project will cost? She got a new figure during question time from the Minister for Rail and has no control over what the Minister for Rail will do.
Because, and forgive me for the repetition, but because the point of comparison was such a dog of a project that actually we just need to do simple things well to do better and save New Zealanders money. I want to share with you, Mr. Speaker, a characterisation of Project IREX by someone that I think members across the House know. Kiwi Rail underscoped the landside infrastructure in 2021, meaning the decision to procure 2 large rail-enabled ships at that time was premature. And to date, we are yet to see a satisfactory explanation for why this was the case. That, Mr. Speaker, is a quote from the Honourable Grant Robertson.
Katie Nimmer.
My question is to the Minister of Education. What steps have been taken to improve the delivery of school property for students across the country?
The Honourable Erica Stanford.
Mr. Speaker, after a ministerial inquiry found the Ministry of Education's school property function was not fit for purpose, this government has been driving for stronger performance and efficiency by investing far more into maintaining existing school buildings and delivering more new classrooms for less through the use of standardised, repeatable designs and off-site manufactured classrooms. In this financial year, we've already increased the number of cost-effective off-site manufactured buildings delivered, a 35% increase on the last financial year, and we've still got a long way to run. In 2023, only 433 new classrooms were built. In 2024, 581 were built, a 30% increase on the year before, because we are driving efficiency, delivering results and building more classrooms.
Supplementary. How is she able to build more classrooms?
Well, Mr. Speaker, as previously mentioned, we're delivering more off-site manufactured buildings. The average cost per classroom when we arrived in government was $1.2 million. This is now down to $870,000, nearly a 30% reduction, and we are still driving this down so that more students can benefit from safe, warm, dry learning environments that supports them to achieve. Mr. Speaker, with our drive to use standardised designs, easy for me to say, and off-site manufacturing, we are significantly reducing construction time and costs so more classrooms can be delivered more quickly and more efficiently.
Supplementary. What examples has she seen that shows an improvement in the delivery of school property?
Well, Mr. Speaker, one example is Wellington Girls College just up the road here, where 14 classrooms Over 4 two-storey modulars were delivered in just 12 weeks at a cost of around $550,000 per classroom, representing a 35% saving on the current value for money cost per classroom. This is just one example, Mr. Speaker, of delivering efficiency and results, using standardised designs and off-site manufacture to significantly reduce construction time and costs so more classrooms can be delivered more quickly and more efficiently.
Supplementary. What feedback has she seen?
Well, Mr. Speaker, a school in my electorate, as it turns out, where the ministry drove great value for money by retrofitting an existing building rather than building new, wrote to the ministry, to say, we want to express our deepest gratitude for the exceptional and efficient work you have done over the Christmas period to ensure the successful completion of an interim seismic property project through 4 of our whānau buildings. This is just one example of many of driving value for money so we can deliver more upgrades to more classrooms and more schools across New Zealand because we are a government that delivers.
Great news. Classic.
Kahurangi kara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister for Children. What changes, if any, does she intend to make in response to Aroturuku Tamariki, Independent Children's Monitor, Experience of Care?
Yeah, you're not wrong, JB. It certainly makes it easier when people are desperate for work.
That
to get
found
shit built.
that Oranga Tamariki social workers are under significant pressure.
The Honourable Karen Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Oranga Tamariki social workers for what they do, and also to the Independent Children's Monitor for what they do. I regularly talk with social workers across the country, and I've personally visited at least 29 Oranga Tamariki sites since becoming Minister. And I'm constantly
I probably am not one of them,
Jackson,
to be honest.
Children. I know it takes
I'm probably
a
not
special
one of them.
kind of person to do the work that they do. This government did not need to wait
Some
for
gang
this
members,
forced
sure,
report,
but
from the ICU.
the average gang member versus the
already,
average
amongst
copper,
other
I'll take the
things,
copper.
Secured funding of $68.5 million through budget 2024 to upgrade the outdated case management technology system so social workers can have the tools they need, which means they can spend more time with children and families that they work with. And we've also recruited 33 allied support workers, which is a frontline role to support social workers by taking on tasks that don't require a social work qualification, freeing up social workers to focus on core work.
Why are you losing brain cells at an alarmingly rapid rate?
Social workers
Because of this chick on your screen.
When their workloads prevent them from visiting all tamariki assigned to them, and what does she say to the 63% of tamariki that aren't receiving the minimum standard of care under the National Care Standards regulations?
Simply aren't enough social workers,
I
isn't
agree
it?
that it's difficult to collect data around young children. That is why we invested the $68.5 million into an updated case management system which will allow them to collect that data better. And it's why I also, in August 2024, set KPIs on the Chief Executive around the frequency of visits of children in care, timeliness around reports of concern, and supporting caregivers, because this means a lot to me and to the staff looking after our young people.
Supplementary.
Kahurangi kara.
What does she say to the PSA's National Secretary, Fleur Fitzsimons, that has highlighted, quote, decades of reviews and inquiries have consistently identified high staff workloads as a barrier to Oranga Tamariki consistently delivering on its purpose. The government's reckless spending cuts have seen Oranga Tamariki lose over 400 workers, meaning those remaining shoulder even higher workloads, end quote.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the PSA is entitled to their opinion, but at the end of the day, this government is committed to making sure that every dollar we spend goes towards our young people. And we are prioritising our frontline staff to make sure that they do have the tools that they need to do their job and do their job well.
The problem is it's not the government actually deciding which people lose their jobs, it's people in the bureaucracy.
Recent Select Committee request, if she offers the issue a hug, will it go away?
Yeah, that's...
Jackson, you're 100% right. Kaurangi Carter has
responsibility for
strong dislike and distrust of police officers in prisons and, quite frankly, has no respect for anyone with opposing opinions.
Social workers did Oranga Tamariki recruit last year?
Mr. Speaker, last year Oranga Tamariki recruited 463 field social workers. 410 of these were permanent roles. With attrition, this means that the number of field social workers has increased by more than 200 in the last year. We have also trialled and now implemented, as I said in the primary answer, allied support worker roles. This is 33 support workers working alongside frontline staff to free them up to do their role.
Supplementary. Can she confirm that she thinks the previous statement is factually incorrect, or is she dismissing it because of who the quote comes from?
I never said it was factually incorrect, Mr. Speaker. I said she's entitled to her opinion.
Supplementary. What does she say to the 507 tamariki and rangatahi that were abused or neglected in state care about the hope for their future, when there has been little improvement for them in the last 4 years, and the report stating that it is unlikely to change in the next report?
Mr. Speaker, since becoming the Minister of Children and even before being the Minister of Children, I've always advocated for the safety and well-being of our children in care. This is why I set it as a priority for Oranga Tamariki to get back to their core focus, which is the safety and well-being of our young people in care and those that come to the attention of Oranga Tamariki. No abuse is okay, Mr. Speaker, but what I would say is I've spent the last year going around the country encouraging people to, if they
This is interesting. There's actually about 1,600 more social workers as of June 2024 compared with around June 2023.
And we can finally deal with the problem.
So, you know, this is just ridiculous.
Does she agree with the independent child monitor who is reported as saying that recent internal restructuring of Oranga Tamariki had pulled focus away from frontline work, while scarce resources were even harder to secure following the changes to the commissioning and contracting, and if not, why not?
Look, Mr. Speaker, change is always hard, but what I can tell you is, going up and down the country since becoming Minister, the culture and the way staff dealing with our young people is showing a real positive turnaround. This has been an issue for a very long time, Mr. Speaker. This is a 4-year report. I'm responsible for this year that has come by. I'm not happy with that report, and I am making sure that we do better in the future.
Order, Mr. Speaker. She didn't answer my question about whether she agreed with the monitor or not.
Well, I think she did by saying that she was responsible for 1 year of the 4, and that she was doing her best to improve on the matters raised. I think that certainly addresses the question. Hannah Rafferty Maipi-Clark.
Koe te pika. My question is to the Minister of Education. Is she confident that her actions will improve education achievement for all rangatahi?
The Honourable Erica Stanford.
Mr. Speaker, I am absolutely confident in that. And I stand by my actions to build a world-class leading education system that delivers excellent and equitable outcomes for every child, including tamariki Māori. And right now, this term, every child learning in Te Reo Māori has access to high-quality, nationally consistent, structured maths books, benefiting 27,000 akonga across the country. We've refreshed Te Marotanga o Aotearoa to be knowledge-rich year by year in Te Reo Māori. We've launched a structured program to teach reading, writing and speaking in Te Reo. We've developed purpose-built phonics check tools to monitor student progression in Te Reo. We're delivering free decodable books that we have created in Te Reo Māori. We're progressing my Māori Education Action Plan, and I've established my Māori Education Advisory Group.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker. Does she stand by her new NCEA reading, writing and maths tests when these tests are failing students in low-income schools, and principals at these schools have warned that these changes will create a generation of school leavers with no qualifications, most of whom will
Nothing
be
wrong with no
Māori or
qualifications,
Pasifika?
as long as you know how to read.
Mr. Speaker, Those assessments, literacy and numeracy assessments, are not failing the students are failing the assessments. And it is upon this government to make sure that every single one of those students gets the assistance that they need to get a base level of literacy and numeracy so that they can live the life that they want.
And the
Because if we
principals are
don't
saying
do
we should
that,
just remove the
pushing
test so that they don't
the
fail.
problem
It's like,
down
what
the
the hell?
road, and we all know what happens to young rangatahi who do not have good literacy and numeracy, and this government will not stand by
Yeah, they
and
end
let
up
that
MPs
happen.
for the Māori Party.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker. Does she agree with NZEI President Ripika Lessels that, quote, the evidence shows tamariki Māori succeed best in kura kaupapa Māori where te reo me ngā tikanga is
Then
supported.
send them there. Honestly,
Resources,
you've got
resource
options.
teachers of Māori play a key role in supporting teachers and children in these schools, end quote.
If she cares about that, she'll
Mr.
love the ACT
Speaker,
Party.
I agree that
She's done
children
more for
should
kura
have
kaupapa
choice.
than arguably any
And
other
there are
party.
many families who would like to send their children to a kura kaupapa, and there are many families who would like to send their children to an English medium school. And the purpose of this government and the drive that I have is to make sure that no matter where a tamariki Māori ends up, that they have an excellent education and equitable outcomes.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker. What message is the government sending to young Māori when they stress the importance of literacy on one hand, while considering defunding expert teachers who support literacy and te reo Māori on the other?
Talking to these
Mr.
people was like
Speaker, we
talking to a
are
very
out for
thick,
consultation
obese stump in the middle of a
around
foul-smelling
role, the
swamp.
Māori role. And the reason that we're out for consultation, Mr Speaker, is that there have
Sometimes.
been multiple evaluations that have said that this particular service delivery model is inequitable and is not optimised. And I'll give you one example of that, Mr Speaker. In Southland, there are 5 Āti Māoris. In Northland, there are only 3, and yet rangatahi Māori predominantly are in Northland in far greater numbers than in Southland. And that is the reason why we need to take a look at this resource and work out exactly how we can optimise it so more young people have access to that specialist help.
Question number 9, Dr. The Honourable Ashafirul.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Health and asks, does he stand by his statement? My focus is, and always will be, on improving patient outcomes. Patients will be my #1 priority. And what is the role of health workers in achieving those outcomes for patients?
The Honourable Simeon Brown.
Mr Speaker, yes, I stand by my statement in the context it was made, that my focus is and always will be on patients and improving patient outcomes. That's why we are refocusing the healthcare system on delivering access to timely, quality healthcare for all New Zealanders through our government's health targets. Our government knows that frontline health workers are critical in delivering these services. That's why our frontline workforce at Health New Zealand is the largest and strongest it has ever been, with over 2,000 more nurses employed at Health New Zealand since 2023, earning on average a salary of $125,000, comparable now with nurses in New South Wales. On this side of the House, we are unashamed that it is the patients who will always be at the heart of every decision we make, and it is the healthcare workers who are critical to delivering those services.
Supplementary, does he agree with Christopher Luxon, who said in respect to nurses, whether they're in aged care, whether they're at GP community practices or in the DHB equivalent system, they should be paid the same? Or Simeon Brown, who said nursing wages are not my job?
Look, Mr Speaker, I agree with the Prime Minister, and the quote that was taken out of context by the Post this morning was in regards to contractual negotiations between doctor clinics and their staff. That was a quote taken out of context, but I absolutely agree with the need to make sure that there is pay parity between nurses working in our hospitals and in our primary care areas. And ultimately, we know it will take time to deliver that, but that's why we're focusing back on primary care, which was something the last government didn't.
Supplementary, are the dietitians, the mental health nurses, the pharmacists, the public health nurses, represented by the PSA, bureaucrats?
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm very happy to talk about the PSA union, led by a failed Labor Party candidate who couldn't even win her seat. And ultimately, the union's doing what the union does when the National Party's in government. They attack the government. That's what they're doing, and I completely get what they're trying to do. But ultimately, my focus is on the patients and getting better outcomes for them. That's what this government is unashamedly focused on.
Supplementary. Why did he attack Fleur Fitzsimmons rather than respond to the contents of the PSA report? Couldn't he be the bigger man, at least metaphorically?
Well,
I think it just turned into a free-for-all.
look, Mr. Speaker, I'm open to the low blow from time to time, but what I would say is this government is focused on patients. They're focused on the unions. They got rid of the health targets. They ran down our health system. They restructured it.
Not
during
wrong,
the
Robert, not
pandemic,
wrong.
And they forgot about the patients. We will stand on the side of the patients while they stand on the side of unions. A shame on them.
That's a great point. There comes a point where you forget what people need because you're too focused on the unions. Honestly, I can't stand unions, bro. They do my head in.
Okay.
Why, if he's so committed to patient outcomes, won't he respond seriously to a report that documents delays in rehab for stroke patients, malnourished cancer patients, and untreated babies left with cleft palates because of his government's cuts?
Well, Mr. Speaker, if she's talking about the PSA unions report that she's talking about again, well, I tell you what, the PSA union member who is clearly leading that organisation, who failed to win her seat, clearly all she's trying to do is get a high list ranking at the next election.
Sounds true enough to me.
I think we'll have an answer to the question rather than the political statement.
New Zealand politicians have a really bad habit of unnecessarily categorising issues by ethnicity rather than focusing on other aspects such as family dysfunction. You're exactly right. Far too common. It basically is the only way the left is capable of looking at these things. Even National has a little bit of trouble sometimes.
Won't he respond seriously to a report that documents delays in rehab for stroke patients, malnourished cancer patients, and untreated babies left with cleft palates?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I acknowledge that there is a need for greater investment in our health system, and I'm proud of the investment this government has made. We have increased health funding by $16.68 billion over 3 budgets. We are focusing the system back on frontline service delivery. That is the focus this government is bringing, putting the patients back at the heart, not the bureaucratic change which was what the last government was focused on.
Not wrong.
Will he take up the invitation posed by professionals struggling with the hiring freeze in Health New Zealand? We'll love someone to come to our team meeting and explain why we do not have approval to advertise for the current vacancies we are holding. And if not, does he worry he is out of touch with the reality of healthcare in New Zealand?
Well, Mr. Speaker, there are hundreds of jobs advertised at Health New Zealand currently online and available for people to put their names for. There is no such thing as a hiring freeze. Though we're focused on frontline service delivery. As I said in my primary answer, we have the largest healthcare workforce ever in New Zealand. We have over 2,000 more nurses employed under this government in Health New Zealand. We are focusing back on the delivery of services for New Zealanders, and they should look in the mirror. When they got rid of the health targets, they saw their outcomes reduced for patients, and then they decided to restructure during a pandemic. Shame on them.
I love how people were proofful Tim aversion take the moral high ground. Exactly, they can't. They simply can't.
Opposition member keeps referring to as gospel was actually sent to more than 24,000 union members, yet only 1,287 chose to reply, meaning it only had a 5.3% response rate from its own members.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that is 100% correct. And what I'd say to the PSA union is start focusing on at the next election.
It's a bit of a shame when you make the point and then lose it with that sort of stuff. So, give, no, I don't want to get Cameron Brewer.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Police and asks, what recent announcements has he made about police's work to tackle gangs?
Mr. Speaker, last week the Minister of Justice and I announced that police
Free
have
KFC.
done outstanding work in enforcing the Gangs Act, laying charges and seizing insignia. The Gangs Act has proven to be an enabling piece of legislation as well, providing a vehicle for police to cause further disruption to gangs through a raft of other changes.
To be fair, I can't remember the last time I saw a gang patch, to be honest.
Contrary to all the commentary prior to the implementation of the legislation, compliance has been high, and it is obvious to the public that our police are controlling the streets again, not the gangs.
Supplementary. How many charges have police laid under the Gangs Act?
Mr. Speaker, as of yesterday, police have laid 385 charges under the Gangs Act 2024 and 3,546 other charges overall against individuals on the national gang list. This government is committed to giving police the tools they need to significantly disrupt gangs.
Supplementary. How many patch and firearm seizures have been made?
Mr. Speaker, as at 19th of February, police have seized 76 patches and 67 firearms from gang members since the new legislation came into force. It has proven to be a valuable tool for police to find further evidence of offending and lay more charges.
Supplementary. What recent examples of great work in tackling gangs can he share?
Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday the 14th of January, Napier Police executed a search warrant and found a loaded firearm, ammunition, cannabis, methamphetamine, $3,900 in cash, laying multiple charges. In the Central Hawke's Bay on 30th of January, police arrested an Outlaws gang member and seized 3 firearms, including a fully loaded pistol, which was in the same bag as a quantity of methamphetamine. I want to thank all our police who are doing an outstanding job in cracking down on gangs and organised crime.
Mark Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Associate Minister of Justice and reads, how are firearms prohibition orders intended to make New Zealand safer?
The Honourable Nicole McKee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last year, Parliament passed the Firearms Prohibition Orders Legislation Amendment Act to keep firearms out of the hands of gang members and other high-risk offenders. Last Sunday, that legislation came into force. This means police have more powers to search individuals subject to a firearms prohibition order, along with their vehicles and premises, to ensure that they are not in possession of firearms.
Yeah, right, well, that kind of aims the question towards this change. Whilst I support this change, it still
future offenders
allows
can access firearms.
too much reliance on police not being corrupt. So I think of Nobody, you're familiar with Nobody, who was
specific violent offences like
harassed by
murder,
police for
serious
no good
assault,
reason at all.
sexual violence and aggravated robbery. I have expanded the qualifying criteria, allowing firearm prohibition orders to be issued to gang members and criminals convicted of drug, firearms and other violent offences. This means senior gang members can no longer avoid firearm prohibition orders by having their prospects commit offences on their behalf.
Here's the interesting thing, I'm actually not sure if I'm prohibited from buying one, probably, but
mean for offenders subject to fire,
I don't recall anyone ever telling me, because I was a
now that the new regime is in force.
Police now have the power to search gang members and serious offenders subject to a firearms prohibition order at any time. They do not need to suspect they're breaching their firearms prohibition order or that they are committing any other offence. Mr. Speaker, firearms prohibition orders are only effective if police have the power to enforce them, and I have made sure that they do. Criminals are now on notice. Illegal firearm possession will not be tolerated, and they will be held accountable for their actions.
Supplementary, what does the improved firearms prohibition orders regime mean for this government's commitment to restoring law and order?
Mr. Speaker, I'm delivering on this government's commitment to crack down on crime and restore law and order. Last year, reported violent crime dropped for the first time since 2018. With these improved firearms prohibition orders now in force, I am confident this downward trend in violent crime will continue, making our communities safer and ensuring criminals are held to account.
Question number 12, the Honourable Dr. Duncan Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is for the Minister of Justice. Does he stand by his statements and actions in respect of extended powers of arrest and detention for ordinary citizens?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Paul Gosman.
Yes, in the context in which they were given. I particularly stand by.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree, Wokesick.
Quote, New Zealanders are fed up with the level of retail crime that they are experiencing in our communities. That's why this government has considered proposals to change the rules, because if you want to have a different outcome, sometimes you have to change things, and that is what we're proposing.
Supplementary. Did he consider the opinion of Hospitality New Zealand, who told the Ministerial Advisory Group that
Duncan Webb reminds me of
consider it
Damien
a
Grant if he
significant
was,
health and safety
you know,
risk
brain dead.
to both staff and customers if we start advocating for stronger detaining abilities.
Sorry, Damien.
Before he announced extended powers of citizens' arrest.
Yes, I mean, I think the member is pointing to the fact that there's a widespread variety of views on this matter. But the point I would make is for the hospitality.
By the way, if I need to rebalance the sound and stuff, let me
we have
know.
laws in place after
Maybe
9
turn my
PM,
mic down a little
where,
bit.
A citizen's arrest can be conducted, but before 9 PM it can't be. And so fundamentally it's about trying to rectify that situation. And of course, no hospitality worker is obliged to do anything by these proposals. It is an option that is available and can be used if the circumstances are appropriate.
Supplementary. Why did he announce proposals for extended powers for citizens' arrest when the only written submissions to Sonny Kuchel's Ministerial Advisory Group on retail crime that clearly supported increased powers of arrest for ordinary citizens was the submission of Sonny Kuchel in the name of the Dairy and Business Owners Group?
Why? Well, because we believe it's a good policy. And the Ministry Advisory Group, led by Sonny Kuchel, has a variety of people in it, and they all have their different views. And we fully expect that we'll come up with proposals which are bold, and which may well be pushing the boat out. But we need to experiment and come up with different approaches, otherwise we're going to have the same outcome. Because I think all New Zealanders are fed up with the level of retail crime that they're seeing in our communities. We've had a very significant increase over the past few years. And if the member wants to argue for the current arrangements being perfect and everything is fine, well, that's up to him. But I think we need to do something differently.
Supplementary.
No worries, I've just gone and checked how the sound sounds. It's all good in the hood, Dads.
Consult with the Police Association, whose president, Chris Cahill, said the idea that the public can do this safely is just putting them at risk. That isn't necessary, before he announced his powers of citizens' arrest.
Well, I'd be interested as to how the Police Association consider it's okay at 9:05 to do something and not okay at 8:55 to do something. So anyway, that's part of the ongoing discussion. And this legislation, when it's introduced, will come into the House, and we are sure that we'll get a wide variety of views in the Select Committee process. But this is a government that is prepared to do different things to get different outcomes. And we're not satisfied with the situation on our streets right now. We're not satisfied with the level of retail crime, and this is one of many things that we're considering in order to improve the situation, alongside bringing real consequences for crime with our sentencing regime, the return of 3 strikes, and many other things, such as giving the police extra powers to deal with organised crime.
Is it the fact that he or his Ministerial Advisory Group consulted with Destiny Church leader Brian Tamaki, who suggested his thugs who have disrupted lawful activities will use power of arrest and detention, when he said, "How excited am I? Man Up is about to receive increased powers to police where law and order has failed." And is he concerned that new citizens' arrest powers may be misused by such malicious actors?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I did think it was a cheap shot by the Herald to refer to the Destiny being in support of this proposal. Nobody asked the Destiny. Nobody is particularly concerned in the views of the Destiny Church on this
Fair
matter.
enough.
And we certainly don't make our decisions as to whether progress law and order policies based on the opinions of the good bishop. And I'd encourage that member not to pay too much attention to his views either.
Is he concerned that Sonny Kuchel, the chair of the Ministerial Advisory Group, had a deep and significant conflict of interest when he essentially made a submission to himself when he submitted in his capacity as chair of the Dairy and Business Owners Group, and then largely adopted the recommendations he had made to himself?
Well, why wouldn't you?
Of
He's the
course,
one that's
we
made them.
did appoint Sunny Kushal because of his wide-ranging experience on the front line, dealing particularly with the dairy owners who have to deal with a horrendous level of abuse
Honestly,
and violence
Labor
in
coming
our
after Sunny
community.
Kushal is
And
just
we have
ridiculous.
very much in mind the thoughts for particularly husband and wife teams working very hard in the small retail sector, trying to make a living, often coming from other countries, trying to settle in New Zealand and make a living, and struggling with the level of violence and ongoing retail crime. And we want to offer them solutions rather than just continuing on with the same approach that we've had for such a long time.
The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Can I ask the Minister as to whether or not he's seeking cross-party support to promote shoppers, not robbers, or are we being naive?
I would like to extend the opportunity for the other members of this House to reach across the divide and approach this in a bipartisan manner, because I think all New Zealanders and all members of this Parliament should be focused on improving the situation that people experience in our community and to restore law and order in this country.
That concludes oral questions. Would some member like to take note of miscellaneous business?
Mr. Speaker, I so move. Mr. Speaker, last week the government slogan was "Everyone must go." Andrew Bailey finally got the memo and went. But this week they've changed their slogan, Mr. Speaker, and it seems to be "Let them eat Marmite." Because
Why not?
this is a
Nothing wrong with Marmite
that
unless your
has
name's Simon Anderson and you need to be locked up
the
for
school
disparaging
lunches
it.
Program. They seem to think that kids should settle for lunches with burnt plastic in them, lunches that are barely edible, lunches that don't show up at all, halal lunches with ham in them. And
Then have their parents make it.
Laying off local workers and cutting funding contracts from local businesses to give contracts to multinational corporations who fail to meet their performance measures is a better way to go. Mr. Speaker,
Calling them
school
hippies an
lunches
insult
are
to
an
hippies.
investment in our future. Kids going to school hungry won't be focused on their learning. And this government, instead of fixing the mess they've made of school lunches, this week has decided to attack parents instead. They've chosen instead to say that the kids who are receiving lunch at school are receiving it because their parents simply are irresponsible. How out of touch with working New Zealand families can this government get? Half the kids in New Zealand who live below the poverty line have working parents. How out of touch for
The
this
problem is the
government to
poverty
simply
line doesn't
say,
mean they
"Oh,
can't
those families
feed them.
should
Like, for
just
goodness
front up with
sake.
the lunches." The
Not a
government here
one-size-fits-all
does not
type
understand
line.
How hard it is for working New Zealand families. They also don't understand the consequences of their own decisions. This was a government that decided to increase the minimum wage by less than the rate of inflation. So for those working families that
Because
are now
it's been going up faster than the
their
rate of
incomes have
inflation
gone
in the last few
backwards
years.
because of decisions
We can't continue
that
to
this
put that
government
cost
took.
on businesses right now.
And then, Mr. Speaker, having attacked kids, having attacked low-income working families, the government then turned their attention to vigilante justice. Having said when they were in opposition that they didn't want to see a system of vigilante justice emerge in New Zealand, they have now embraced it and they want to make it the law.
Oh, now you're just talking
Interestingly,
nonsense.
no one in this government really wants to talk about that anymore. Mark Mitchell certainly doesn't want to talk about it. The Prime Minister certainly doesn't want to talk about it. Only poor old Goldsmith. He's the only one who actually is willing to talk about that policy. And then he has to admit that he's absolutely messed it up. Because the only person who actually argued in favour of this particular change was Sunny Kushal when he was
I
submitting...
mean, Chris
to
Hipkins is
review
bad
his
as
boss
Kamala
Sunny
Harris
Kushal.
suggesting she wants to
Mr.
run for
Speaker,
president again. Like, this is
nobody
stupid
else
shit.
thinks this is a good idea. There's been overwhelming opposition to it from the very people this government seems to think they're going to be supporting.
You know, I
Shopkeepers
miss
saying
plastic
that they
bags.
feel this law change is going to
Straight,
make
I
them
miss
less
plastic bags.
safe, not more safe, and yet the government ploughs on ahead, completely oblivious to the opposition. It would be like Christopher Luxon saying when at Air New Zealand, we're a bit short of pilots, let's just let the public fly the planes. Mr.
Like,
Speaker,
straight up,
I don't
Jacinda
think it's
Ardern. Was it
gonna
Jacinda
work,
Ardern who
and I
banned
think
plastic
New
bags?
Zealanders can see that it's going to make them less safe. Then, of course, we had the complete debacle, the train wreck, you might say, of the inter-island ferries and Nicola Willis's decision to cancel them.
When Jacinda Ardern banned those, she officially outlawed the school bags of all of these kids in poverty.
We have the bizarre situation now where the government's conducting parallel negotiations with Hyundai. They've got a negotiation to cancel the ferries on one hand and then another negotiation to build some other ferries on the other hand. It is beyond farcical, Mr. Speaker. But it gets worse, Mr. Speaker, because then we've got the situation with Richard Prebble and the Waitangi Tribunal.
What about it?
Richard Prebble didn't read any of the reports of the Waitangi Tribunal until he joined it, and then he read a couple of them and says, "Oh, I don't think I like it. I don't think I agree with this organisation that I've signed up."
Yeah, because they are destroying the treaty to affirm their own bullshit ideas.
And all he demonstrated was he can't do both at the same time. But Mr. Speaker,
this is
clearly
crazy.
This government didn't do their due diligence and homework when they appointed Richard Prebble to that job. What they have shown this week is they're not focused on what matters to Kiwis.
Goodness.
They're not focused on the rising cost
Does this
of
bloke
living.
listen to
Rents
himself?
Going up, electricity bills going up. They still haven't taken real
Rates
action
always go
on
up.
supermarkets. They're not fixing the health system as it descends further into crisis. More Kiwis are losing their jobs and house building has collapsed. That's what they're focused on, or that's what they should be focused on, but instead they're focused on all the wrong things.
Mr. Speaker.
Simeon Brown.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what an interesting speech there from the opposition. But the problem is, there weren't many very interested people standing behind him or sitting behind him. The most bored people on planet Earth sitting in the Labor Party backbenches. As he has this little moan for the week about the things that he's been watching on Twitter. You know, moan about this and moan about that. Well, that was an interesting little moan from the Leader of the Opposition. And while they're moaning, we're doing. We're getting things done. We're actually getting things done for New Zealanders. We're focused on the issues that matter, and we're delivering for New Zealanders. And what an interesting question from the Labor Party health spokesperson today, asking whether or not I stood by a statement that I believe that patients should be put first in our health system. Well, what's the health system there for? Patients. Patients. It's like that Yes Minister film, isn't it? Where there's an empty hospital, no patients, and everything was running smoothly, and no one was complaining. Well, we're actually focused on the patients. That's what we're focused on. And while Yes Minister Isha Viral on the other side is chipping away, actually we're focused on putting patients first in our health system. But actually, that question says everything about what the Labor Party actually thinks. They think unions come first when it comes to our health system. They think actually it's the unions which matter first, because what were all the supplementaries about? Unions, unions, unions. Nothing about the patients. We are focused on the patients, and that is exactly what we're doing. And this week, it's been a pleasure to be talking about health care and the things that this government is doing, and putting the focus back on primary health care and the critically important role that primary health care plays in our community. And of course, it's all part of this government's record investment in healthcare. Record investment. $16.68 billion more put into our health system over 3 years. $16.68 billion put into our health system. That is a record investment into our health system. There are more frontline workers in our health system. There are thousands more nurses being employed at Health New Zealand. We are focused on frontline service delivery. That is our priority. And of course, what was the last government focused on? Bureaucracy, restructuring themselves. Yes, absolutely, Judith Collins. Themselves are focused on themselves rather than on the patients. So what did they decide to do? Get rid of the health targets, which actually were about demonstrating whether or not the system was actually working for Kiwis. They decided then to restructure the entire system during a pandemic. What a shame. During COVID.
All right, guys, we're about to switch over to Trump in a minute.
And of course, outcomes
or
went back,
something related to it.
Went down. Emergency department wait times increased. Wait times for elective operations increased. Everything went back. Immunisations for our children went backwards. Appalling. And it became harder to get a GP appointment. So we are fixing those issues and addressing those issues by putting the focus back on the patients. And what a great week it's been.
A joint session of Congress.
Is doing increasing funding for general practice. Our doctors on the front line serving thousands, over 50,000 people see their GP every single day. 50,000 1,000 people see their GP every day.
Dallas says he misses plastic straws. 100% agree there. I'm with Trump on that one.
Training spaces for internationally trained doctors who are living here in New Zealand, unable to work in general practice because there aren't no training spaces. We are fixing that and making sure they've got training spaces. Increasing the number of doctor training spaces at our universities. Over the course of this government, 100 more doctors being trained every year in our universities. That is real results for Kiwis. But also, our nurses. We're going to be making sure that we can help support general practice to take nurses straight into general practice through incentivising them at $15,000 in urban areas and $20,000 in rural communities. More investment, and particularly for our regions, there's a deliberate decision here.
Well, the speech hasn't started yet, so it's just a blank screen. Well, not a blank screen, a screen with just saying we will begin shortly. I'll switch over, but I'll pop out for 5 minutes and I'll be right back.
Choices and more access available for Kiwis to be able to access those services. So look, Mr. Speaker, we're focused on delivery. We're focused.
Okay, you can shut up. No one cares. Yeah, so for right now, it's just this. I'll leave it here for a moment. You won't be able to hear anything. I'll be right back in a few minutes.
Speaker, the President of the United States.
Alrighty, folks. Jamie points out that all the woke Dems are wearing pink. I'm sure a good chunk of them are. No surprises there. Look at them, mate. All those miserable sods on the left. No claps. Just pettiness.
Speaker Johnson, Vice President Vance, the First Lady of the United States. Members of the United States Congress, thank you very much. And to my fellow citizens, America is back.
Zelensky ran on peace, and look what he did with his power. Hey, got a good point here. He's refusing to give up.
6 weeks ago, I stood beneath the dome of this Capitol and proclaimed the dawn of the golden age of America. From that moment on, it has been nothing but swift and unrelenting action to usher in the greatest and most successful era in the history of our country. We have accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started.
I mean, you don't have to clap every 5 seconds. Come on, people.
I return to this chamber tonight to report that America's momentum is back, our spirit is back, our pride is back, our confidence is back, and the American dream is surging bigger and better than ever before.
Well, yeah, it's hard to know what they'll throw at him this time. But I mean, it's his last term, right? There's only so much they can do. It's not going to have an impact on the next election for him.
Perhaps we'll never witness again.
If they're smart, what they'll do is they'll try and take down Vance ahead for the next election rather than Trump himself. Or at the very least, smear Vance enough with a connection to him.
November 5th was a mandate like has not been seen in many decades. We won all 7 swing states, giving us an electoral college victory of 312 votes.
Not out of the question, Robert.
We won the popular vote by big numbers and won counties in our country.
Imagine seeing something like this in a New Zealand Parliament, right? It never happened. I mean, to be fair, they probably shouldn't be chanting right now, but it does show you the difference between Republicans and, well, and those other losers.
And won counties in our country, 2,700 to 525, on a map that reads almost completely red for Republican. Now, for the first time in modern history, more Americans believe that our country is headed in the right direction than the wrong direction. In fact, it's an astonishing record, 27-point swing, the most ever.
I'm not going to bother with the
Likewise,
fact checking because it's just inconsequential. Jamie points out they won 89% of the counties within the swing states. Now that's a mandate. That's crazy. Also, first popular vote for Republicans since Bush's second term.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House and to cease any further disruptions. That's your warning.
I'm just looking at JD. What a handsome man.
Continuing breach of decorum, and the chair is prepared to direct the Sergeant at Arms to restore order to the joint session.
I do find it funny though, because the only ones making the noise are the people standing up.
Mr. Green, take your seat. Take your seat, sir. Take your seat.
Oh, okay, it's that guy getting up. That makes sense.
Finding that members continue to engage in willful and concerted disruption of proper decorum.
Is he getting up and saying,
Sergeant at Arms to restore order.
saying no mandate? That's ridiculous.
Remove this gentleman from the chamber.
Bye-bye. Take you and your walking stick, thank you. That's just like a pure FAFO moment, that one. He just gave him one chance and nope, okay, you're out. You're gone. Oh, stop having a sook.
Members are directed to uphold and maintain decorum in the House. Mr. President, you continue.
Thank you. Over the past 6 weeks, I have signed nearly 100 executive orders and taken more than 400 executive actions, a record to restore common sense, safety, optimism, and wealth all across our wonderful land. The people elected me to do the job, and I'm doing it. In fact, it has been stated by many that the first month of our presidency, it's our presidency, is the most successful in the history of our nation.
It's rather subjective, to be honest. But it certainly hasn't been a bad start.
And what makes it even more impressive is that, do you know who number 2 is? George Washington. How about that? How about that? I don't know about that list, but we'll take it. Within hours of taking the oath of office, I declared a national emergency on our southern border, and I deployed the U.S. military and Border Patrol to repel the invasion of our country. And what a job they've done. As a result, illegal border crossings last month were by far the lowest ever recorded, ever.
They have to reduce dramatically, like we're talking like maybe 90%. Like, I think it was like Biden's last day in office, it was like 1,100 in a single day. And now it's like down to like 100 a day at best.
Joe Biden, the worst president in American history, there were hundreds of thousands of illegal crossings a month, and virtually all of them, including murderers, drug dealers, gang members, and people from mental institutions and insane asylums, were released into our country. Who would want to do that?
So the most egregious part is how they dealt with it, rather than just how many came through.
Once again, I look at the Democrats in front of me, and I realize there is absolutely nothing I can say to make them happy or to make them stand or smile or applaud.
Yes, as true enemies certainly get other people to do the dirty work for them, so that makes it more dangerous.
A disease that would wipe out entire nations, or announce the answers to the greatest economy in history or the stoppage of crime to the lowest levels ever recorded. And these people sitting right here will not clap, will not stand, and certainly will not cheer for these astronomical achievements. They won't do it, no matter what. Five times I've been up here. It's very sad, and it just shouldn't be this way.
Look at them, they look absolutely miserable. Must steals. Save Medicaid. Protect veterans. Oh, what a bunch of petty losers.
So Democrats sitting before me, for just this one night, why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America? For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
Well, this is them officially doing more work than they did under the Biden administration. Like, they've never had to use their arms so much.
Every day my administration is fighting to deliver the change America needs to bring a future that America deserves, and we're doing it. This is a time for big dreams and bold action. Upon taking office, I imposed an immediate freeze on all federal hiring, a freeze on all new federal regulations, and a freeze on all foreign aid.
Yeah, there's still a few too many rhinos in the mix for my liking, but they're slowly getting weeded out.
I terminated the ridiculous
We need that one-eyed guy, eye patch guy. What is his name? Crenshaw? Some weirdo. Need to get rid of him next.
Costing us trillions of dollars that other countries were not paying. I withdrew from the corrupt World Health Organization.
May as well just leave the entire...
And I also withdrew from
thing
the
now.
anti-American UN Human Rights Council.
Yeah, any of those human rights-related bloody bodies, be them domestic or
We ended all
international,
of
just
Biden's
frauds, mate.
environmental restrictions that were making our country far less safe and totally unaffordable. And importantly, we ended the last administration's
I'll reserve your question for a little bit later.
mandate, saving our auto
All in
workers
goods.
and companies from economic
Alan, is that it, Alan? I'll reserve that question. I'll tackle it after he's finished speaking. 'Cause otherwise, I'll take too long. Although he does tend to speak well.
To unshackle
Oh yeah, I'll make
our
sure I highlight it.
economy, I have directed that for every one new regulation, 10 old regulations must be eliminated, just like I did in my very successful first term.
The wizard guy that said he was going to give everyone guns. I don't know, but he sounds cool. Welcome, Kez.
And in that first term, we set records on ending unnecessary rules and regulations like no other president had done before. We ordered all federal workers to return to the office. They will either show up for work in person or be removed from their job. And we have ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting president is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent, like me. How did that work out? Not too good. Not too good. And I have stopped all government censorship and brought back free speech in America. It's back. And 2 days ago, I signed an order making English the official language of the United States of America. I renamed the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. And likewise, I renamed, for a great president, William McKinley, Mount McKinley again. Beautiful Alaska. We love Alaska. We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across
A 90-minute
the
address.
entire
Trust
federal
Trump, right?
government and indeed the private sector and our military.
He never fails to speak for ages. See, Biden would have already been finished.
Our country will be woke no longer.
What I can do very quickly, Alan,
Whether you are a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, or an air traffic controller, you should be hired and promoted based on
if you want a little bit more insight into what they may be doing with respect to the tariffs, read that.
You should be hired based on merit. And the Supreme Court, in a brave and very powerful decision, has allowed us to do so. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We have removed the poison of critical race theory from our public schools, and I signed an order making it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
I'm louder on TikTok than on X. That's really weird because it's coming through the same stream. So it goes. I don't know. Maybe TikTok balances sounds better or something. Just let me know if I need to make any adjustments. I will.
From playing in women's sports. Three years ago, Peyton McNabb was an all-star high school athlete, one of the best, preparing for a future in college sports. But when her girls' volleyball match was invaded by a male, he smashed the ball so hard in Peyton's face, causing traumatic brain injury, partially paralyzing her right side, and ending her athletic career. It was a shot like she's never seen before. She's never seen anything like it. Peyton is here tonight in the gallery, and Peyton, from now on, schools will kick the men off the girls' team, or they will lose all federal funding.
Nice. Oh, she's looking reasonably well. That's fortunate. But yeah, can't be easy. Sure, she's not as active as she once was. You can tell she's not using that left arm as much as the right.
And if you really want to see
Did Trump get the Tate brothers out? No, not really.
What happened in the women's boxing, weightlifting,
there was just a lot of pressure on the Romanians to relax restrictions given things aren't advancing. And funnily enough, if they did, they've now just had a bunch of warrants executed on them in the US, so probably a little bit more deep state nefarious shit going on there. Or maybe just some genuine evidence-based investigation, but yeah. Things aren't too peachy for the Tate brothers in the US right now either, so I think it was the right decision to reduce those restrictions. Ultimately, it's just allowing two countries to investigate them at once more easily now.
What I've just described is only a small fraction of the common sense revolution that is now, because of us, sweeping the entire world. Common sense has become a common theme, and we will never go back. Never. Never going to let that happen. Among my very highest priorities is to rescue our economy and get dramatic and immediate relief to working families. As you know, we inherited from the last administration an economic catastrophe and an inflation nightmare. Their policies drove up energy prices, pushed up grocery costs, and drove the necessities of life out of reach for millions and millions of Americans. They've never had anything like it. We suffered the worst inflation in 48 years, but perhaps even in the history of our country. They're not sure. As president, I'm fighting every day to reverse this damage and make America affordable again. Joe Biden especially let the price of eggs get out of control. The egg price is out of
Because he killed all the chickens.
And we're working hard to get it back down, Secretary.
Isn't it good here in New Zealand our egg prices sorted themselves up? Yeah, you love how their battens say must steals. It's just pathetic, isn't it? What's he stealing? The guy's working for free, for goodness sake.
A major focus of our fight.
He's doing more than any of them ever did. He's doing it for free, and he's done it in a month.
Of energy. The previous administration cut the number of new
Running on $2 trillion in the red, exactly. And through the bloody Doge stuff, they're saving $1 trillion. So they've just halved their annual debt increase through Elon Musk being involved, and Elon Musk is doing it for free. Goodness sake.
And frankly, we have never seen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and that's why it shows that Elon Musk's really good at delegating, right? He knows exactly what he's good at, what other people are good at. He just makes sure it's all going smoothly, putting his inputs in where it's necessary. Just being a smart businessman.
As you've heard me say many
smart
times,
manager, smart
we have
leader.
more liquid gold under our feet than any nation on earth, and by far.
And that's what happens when you do things efficiently. You don't have to invest as much time in it because you're doing it for the most effective, efficient ways, getting the same or better results that you otherwise would. Drill, baby, drill. I need Shane Jones to just say drill, baby, drill every day. That's what I want to hear. Or dig, baby, dig. Mine, baby, mine. I need some of
My
that.
administration is also working on a gigantic natural gas pipeline in Alaska, among the largest in the world, where Japan, South Korea, and other nations want to be our partner with investments of trillions of dollars each. There's never been anything like that one. It will be truly spectacular. It's all set to go. The permitting is gotten. And later this week, I will also take historic action to dramatically expand production of critical minerals and rare earths here in the USA.
Well, yeah, that's exactly how Doge is designed. It's got a self-destruct
To further
button.
combat inflation, we will not only be reducing the cost of energy, but we'll be ending the flagrant waste of taxpayer dollars.
Although, funnily enough, after the next Democrat administration, they're going to have to re-establish it.
And to that end, I have created the brand
Oh,
new
that's hopefully a
Department
while
of
away.
Government Efficiency. Doge. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps.
No, never heard of that.
Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is
Hey,
in
there
the
he is.
gallery tonight.
Take me to Mars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elon. He's working very hard. He didn't need this. He didn't need this. Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
He didn't need like a
Everybody here,
few
even
hundred
this side
people
appreciates it, I believe.
to be holding up signs saying must steal whilst he's in the
They
room
just
with them.
don't want to admit that.
When was this
Just
filmed?
listen
This
to
is
some
live,
of
my
the
friend. This is
appalling
live.
waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS.
Man's living day Einstein, or he's certainly contributing a shit ton.
Illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is.
I certainly don't. That's
$8 million
bizarre.
to promote LGBTQI+ in the African nation of Lesotho, which nobody has ever heard of.
I think I might have
$60
vaguely
million
heard of it at the
for
Olympics one time.
indigenous peoples and Afro-Colombian empowerment in Central America. $60 million.
What a
$8
waste of
million
money.
for making mice trans.
Let their countries do it. Mice transgender. Lovely.
This is real. $32 million for a left-wing propaganda operation in Moldova. $10 million for male circumcision in Mozambique. $20 million for the Arab Sesame Street in the Middle East. It's a program. $20 million for a program. $1.9 billion to recently created Decarbonization of Homes Committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her?
His $100 million to Auckland Uni was,
A
to be fair, to clarify, it was less so US aid and more so other US related contracts like US defense contracts and so forth, but still coming from the US, so it may as well be the same thing. A range of things. Some of them are just genuine scientific important things that they're investing in for some universities, some experts to do research into, but other things are a bit silly, and there is a bit of that. So it's a bit of a mixed bag. You'd have to look at it all yourself. I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head.
In Zambia, $42 million for social and behavior change in Uganda. $14 million for improving public procurement in Serbia. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well with learning. I don't know what we're doing. We should use it ourselves.
Yeah, it's a real mixed bag,
$101
Kez.
million for DEI contracts at the Department of Education. The most ever paid, nothing even like it. Under the Trump administration, all of these scams. And
I can't believe that's a genuine headline. $8 million for making mice transgender. Like,
many more have been found out and exposed and swiftly terminated by a group of very intelligent, mostly young people, headed up by Elon, and we appreciate it. We found hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud. And we've taken back the money and reduced our debt to fight inflation and other things. Taken back a lot of that money. We got it just in time. This is just the beginning.
oh, who's having a cry?
The Government Accountability Office, a federal government office, has estimated annual fraud of over $500 billion in our nation, and we are working very hard to stop it. We're going to. We're also identifying shocking levels of incompetence and probable fraud in the Social Security program for our seniors, and that our seniors and people that we love rely on. Believe it or not, government databases list 4.7 million Social Security members from people aged 100 to 109 years old.
Yeah, that's the most crazy thing, some of the stuff they're finding out with dead people receiving funding and that funding disappearing somewhere.
People from ages 110 to 119. I don't know any of them.
And it gets worse. We're talking about like 1800s
elderly,
people.
But not quite that elderly. 3.47 million people from ages 120 to 129.
There we go, 1800s for you.
3.9 million people from ages 130
Joining us now is Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. Mr. Lutnick, thank you.
Oh.
It's great to be here.
3.5 million
Sorry about that, guys.
people from ages 140 to 149. And money is being paid to many of them, and we're searching right now. In fact, Pam, good luck. Good luck. You're going to find it. But a lot of money is paid out to people because it just keeps getting paid and nobody does, and it really hurts Social Security and hurts our country. 1.3 million people from ages 150 to 159, and over 130,000 people, according to the Social Security databases, are age over 160 years old.
But they must be going strong.
We have a healthier country than I thought, Bobby.
Yeah. That is too good.
Including, to finish, 1,039 people between the ages of 220 and 200.
Retard Finder works way too quick, guys. Found one. Hopefully that's focused. I can't quite tell on my end.
Is listed at 360
I don't know, you get the point.
years of
That
age.
weird guy that got kicked out. Retard Finder found him.
More than 100 years older than our country.
NZ needs Doge ASAP, 100%. I think Act's trying to some degree, but National ain't interested on going that far. I don't even think New Zealand First particularly interested. They're not too much in the neoliberal camp. They're more
grocery prices, protect our seniors,
common
and put
sense
more money
liberalism.
in the pockets of American families.
Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth, Marco Rubio, a couple others. I think that other guy might be
And today
Commerce
interest rates
Secretary, I'm not
took
sure.
a beautiful drop, big beautiful drop. It's about time. And in the near future, I want to do what has not been done in 24 years, balance the federal budget. We're going to balance it.
Going to be halfway there soon, if not over that. Look at that. The Democrats are like, oh, how dare you? It's like, well, you can't afford to keep doing what you're doing. So
with that goal in mind, we have developed in great detail what we are calling the Gold Card, which goes
imagine an audit on
sale
IRD.
very, very soon.
Crikey dick.
For $5 million, we will allow the most successful job-creating people from all over the world to buy a path to U.S. citizenship. It's like the green card, but better and more sophisticated. And these people will have to pay tax in our country. They won't have to pay tax from where they came. The money that they've made, you wouldn't want to do that, but they have to pay tax, create jobs. They'll also be taking people out of colleges and paying for them so that we can keep them in our country instead of having them being forced out. Number one, at the top school, as an example, being forced out and not being allowed to stay and create tremendous numbers of jobs and great success for a company out there. So while we take out the criminals, killers, traffickers, and child predators who are allowed to enter our country under the open border policy of these people, the Democrats, the Biden administration, the open border insane policies that you've allowed to destroy our country, we will now bring in brilliant, hardworking, job-creating people. They're going to pay a lot of money, and we're going to reduce our debt with that money. Americans have given us a mandate for bold and profound change. For nearly 100 years, the federal bureaucracy has grown until it has crushed our freedoms, ballooned our deficits, and held back America's potential in every possible way. The nation founded by pioneers and risk-takers now drowns under millions and millions of pages of regulations and debt. Approvals that should take 10 days to get instead take 10 years, 15 years, and even 20 years before you're rejected. Meanwhile, we have hundreds of thousands of federal workers who have not been showing up to work. My administration will reclaim power from this unaccountable bureaucracy, and we will restore true democracy to America again. And any federal bureaucrat who resists this change will be removed from office immediately.
Fair enough. You either,
Because we are
if you're in the
draining
public
the
sector,
swamp.
you either get on
It's
the,
very simple.
get on the
And the
train and
days of
do
rule
your
by
job, or you don't.
unelected bureaucrats are over.
Bureaucrats aren't there to dictate what happens. They're there to do the job. Their faces are, they're utterly miserable. Look at them. You're like, "Ah, all of our hard work of doing nothing is not working out for us."
Economy in history is for this Congress to pass tax cuts for everybody.
Yeah,
They're in there,
I
they're
feel
waiting
like
for
they
you to
certainly
vote.
need
And I'm sure that
term limits, even if it's a similar way to how they do it in many governor races where they're allowed 2 terms.
I'm sure you're going to vote for those tax cuts, because otherwise I don't believe
And then
the people
they have to
will
take a
ever
term
vote
off,
you
and
into
then they can
office,
get
so I'm
re-elected
doing you a
again
big favor
after
by
that.
telling you that. But I know this group is going to be voting for the
Yes,
tax.
Alan. Can I help you, Alan?
Thank you. It's a very, very big part of our plan. We had tremendous success in our first term with it. A very big part of our plan. We're seeking permanent income tax cuts all across the board. And to get urgently needed relief to Americans,
Yeah, it's
hit
ludicrous.
especially hard by inflation, I'm calling for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits for our great seniors.
Who's the bloke on the right behind Trump? I believe that's Mike Johnson, isn't it? The majority leader. Senate majority leader, I think.
And I also want to make interest payments on car loans tax deductible, but only if the car is made in America.
Yeah, well, he's like the Speaker of the House, right? Which is the role you play when you are...
And by the way, we're going to have growth in the auto industry like nobody's
Yeah,
ever
I should
seen.
say House
Plants
Majority
are
Leader,
opening up all over
which
the
makes
place.
you...
Deals are being made. Never seen. That's a combination of the election win and tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it? That along with
okay, yeah,
other
no. So they have a
policies
majority leader and then they have a speaker, but, you know,
allow our
whatever.
auto industry to
All right.
absolutely boom. It's going to boom. Spoke to the majors today, all three, the top people, and they're so excited. In fact, already numerous car companies have
He's like
announced
the
that they will be building massive automobile plants in America.
Jerry Brownlee
with Honda
with
just announcing
probably a
new
little bit
plant
more
in
power.
Indiana, one of the largest anywhere in the world. And this has taken place since our great victory on November 5th, a date which will hopefully go down as one of the most important in the history of our country.
Woke says tariffs is Trump's
In
sixth
addition,
favorite
as
word.
part of our tax
Probably.
cuts, we want to cut taxes on domestic production and all manufacturing. And just as we did before, we will provide 100% expensing. It will be retroactive to January 20th, 2025. And it was one of the main reasons why our tax cuts were so successful in our first term, giving us the most successful economy in the history of our country, first term. We had a great first term. If you don't make your product in America, however, under the Trump administration, you will pay a tariff, and in some cases, a rather large one. Other countries have used tariffs against us for decades, and now it's our turn to start using them against those other countries. On average, the European Union, China, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Canada, have you heard of them? And countless other nations charge us tremendously higher tariffs than we charge them. It's very unfair. India charges us auto tariffs higher than 100%. China's average tariff on our products is twice what we charge them. And South Korea's average tariff is 4 times higher. Think of that, 4 times higher. And we give so much help militarily and in so many other ways to South Korea, but that's what happens. This is happening by friend and foe. This system is not fair to the United States and never was, and so on April 2nd, I wanted to make it April 1st, but I didn't want to be accused of April Fool's Day. That's not, just one day cost us a lot of money. But we're going to do it in April. I'm a very superstitious person. April 2nd, reciprocal tariffs kick in. And whatever they tariff us, other countries, we will tariff them. That's reciprocal, back and forth. Whatever they tax us, we will tax them.
Stage 2 of the tariff changes will be eye-opening, I think. Yeah, potentially.
Non-monetary tariffs to keep us out of their market, then we will do non-monetary barriers to keep them out of our market. There's a lot of that, too. They don't even allow us in their market. We will take in trillions and trillions of dollars and create jobs like we have never seen before. I did it with China, and I did it with others, and the Biden administration couldn't do anything about it because there was so much money they couldn't do anything about it. We have been ripped off for decades by nearly every country on earth, and we will not let that happen any longer. Much has been said over the last 3 months about Mexico and Canada, but we have very large deficits with both of them. But even more importantly, they've allowed fentanyl to come into our country at levels never seen before, killing hundreds of thousands.
Hey, well, that fentanyl, though, it's good stuff.
And many
Not
very
gonna
young,
lie.
beautiful people destroying families. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. They are, in effect, receiving subsidies of hundreds of billions of dollars. We pay subsidies to Canada and to Mexico of hundreds of billions of dollars, and the United States will not be doing that any longer. We're not going to do it any longer. Thanks to our America First policies we're putting into place, we have had $1.7 trillion of new investment in America in just the past few weeks. The combination of the election and our economic policies that people love. SoftBank, one of the most brilliant anywhere in the world, announced a $200 billion investment. OpenAI and Oracle, Larry Ellison, announced $500 billion investment, which they wouldn't have done if Kamala had won. Apple announced $500 billion investment. Tim Cook called me. He said, I cannot spend it fast enough. It's going to be much higher than that, I believe. They'll be building their plants here instead of in China. And just yesterday, Taiwan Semiconductor, the biggest in the world, most powerful in the world, has a tremendous amount, 97% of the market, announced a $165 billion investment to build the most powerful chips on earth right here in the USA.
To be fair, it's probably safer to do that if you're Taiwan.
And we're not giving them any money. Your CHIPS Act is a horrible, horrible thing. We give hundreds of billions of dollars, and it doesn't mean a thing. They take our money and they don't spend it. All that meant to them, we're giving them no money. All that was important to them was they didn't want to pay the tariffs, so they came and they're building, and many other companies are coming. We don't have to give them money. We just want to protect our businesses and our people, and they will come because they won't have to pay tariffs if they build in America. So it's very amazing. You should get rid of the CHIP Act, and whatever's left over, Mr. Speaker, you should use it to reduce debt or any other reason you want to. Our new trade policy will also be great for the American farmer. I love the farmer. Who will now be selling into our home market, the USA, because nobody is going to be able to compete with you because there's goods that come in from other countries and companies. They're really, really in a bad position in so many different ways. They're uninspected. They may be very dirty and disgusting, and they come in and they pour in, and they hurt our American farmers. The tariffs will go on agricultural product coming into America, and our farmers, starting on April 2nd, it may be a little bit of an adjustment period. We had that before when I made the deal with China, $50 billion of purchases, and I said, just bear with me, and they did. They did. Probably have to bear with me again, and this will be even better. That was great. The problem with it was that Biden didn't enforce it. He didn't enforce it. $50 billion of purchases, and we were doing great, but Biden did not enforce it, and it hurt our farmers. But our farmers are going to have a field day right now. So to our farmers, have a lot of fun. I love you too. I love you too. It's all going to happen. And I have also imposed a 25% tariff on foreign aluminum, copper, lumber, and steel, because if we don't have, as an example, steel and lots of other things, we don't have a military, and frankly, we just won't have a country very long. Here today is a proud American steelworker, fantastic person from Decatur, Alabama, Jeff Denard. Has been working at the same steel plant for 27 years in a job that has allowed him to serve as the captain of his local volunteer fire department, raise 7 children with his beautiful wife, Nicole.
You shouldn't do tariffs. That's acceptable. That you should do one-sided deals. Well, if I get the chance, I'll go into that after this. But yeah, he's leveraging.
Thank you, Jeff.
Whether in the long term that works
Thank
out
you, Jeff.
remains to be seen.
Stories like Jeff's remind us that tariffs are not just about protecting American jobs. They're about protecting the soul of our country. Tariffs are about making America rich again and making America great again, and it's happening, and it will happen rather quickly. There'll be a little disturbance, but we're okay with that. It won't be much. No, you're not. Oh. And look where Biden took us, very low, the lowest we've ever been. Jeff, I want to thank you very much. And I also want to recognize another person who has devoted herself to foster care community. She works so hard on it. A very loving person, our magnificent First Lady of the United States. Melania's work has yielded incredible results, helping prepare our nation's future leaders as they enter the workforce. Our First Lady is joined by 2 impressive young women, very impressive. Haley Ferguson, who benefited from the First Lady's Fostering the Future initiative and is poised to complete her education and become a teacher. And Elliston Berry, who became a victim of an illicit deepfake image produced by a peer. With Elliston's help, the Senate just passed the Take It Down Act, and this is so important. Thank you very much, John. John Thune, thank you. Stand up, John. Thank you, John. Thank you all very much. Thank you. And thank you to John Thune and the Senate. Great job. To criminalize the publication of such images online is a terrible, terrible thing. And once it passes the House, I look forward to signing that bill into law. Thank you. And I'm going to use that bill for myself, too, if you don't mind. Because nobody gets treated worse than I do online. Nobody. That's great. Thank you very much to the Senate. Thank you. But if we truly care about protecting Americans' children, no step is more crucial than securing America's borders. Over the past 4 years, 21 million people poured into the United States. Many of them were murderers, human traffickers, gang members, and other criminals from the streets of dangerous cities all throughout the world. Because of Joe Biden's insane and very dangerous open border policies, they are now strongly embedded in our country, but we are getting them out and getting them out fast. And I want to thank Tom Homan and Christy. I want to thank you and Paul of Border Patrol. I want to thank you. What a job they've all done. Everybody, Border Patrol, ICE, law enforcement in general is incredible. We have to take care of our law enforcement. Have to. Last year, a brilliant 22-year-old nursing student named Laken Riley, the best in her class, admired by everybody, went out for a jog on the campus of the University of Georgia. That morning, Laken was viciously attacked, assaulted, beaten, brutalized, and horrifically murdered. Laken was stolen from us by a savage illegal alien gang member who was arrested while trespassing across Biden's open southern border and then set loose into the United States under the heartless policies of that failed administration. It was indeed a failed administration. He had then been arrested
Welcome,
and
Mr.
released
Redbeard.
in a Democrat-run sanctuary city, a disaster, before ending the life of this beautiful young angel. With us this evening are Laken's beloved mother, Allison, and her sister, Lauren.
Her sister looks a lot like her, for sure. Actually, to be fair, they all look like each other. Her mother's bloody aged, I'll tell you.
Last year, I told
Brief will do that,
Laken's
see ya.
grieving parents that we would ensure their daughter would not have died in vain. That's why the very first bill I signed into law as your 47th president mandates the detention of all dangerous criminal aliens who threaten public safety. It's a very strong, powerful act. It's called the Laken-Riley Act. So Allison and Lauren, America will never, ever forget our beautiful Laken Hope Riley. Thank you very much. Since taking office, my administration has launched the most sweeping border and immigration crackdown in American history, and we quickly achieved the lowest numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded. Thank you. The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation, we must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
Savage. Honestly, where was this energy under the last administration? It simply wasn't there. No one had energy for that.
Thank you.
I mean, to be fair, Biden would have been
Joe
finished
Biden
speaking
didn't just open our
40 minutes
borders,
ago.
he flew illegal aliens over them to overwhelm our schools, hospitals, and communities throughout the country. Entire towns like Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio, buckled under the weight of the migrant occupation and corruption like nobody's ever seen before. Beautiful towns destroyed. Now, just as I promised in my inaugural address, we are achieving the great liberation of America. But there still is much work to be done. Here tonight is a
Oh, yeah,
woman
Biden would have fallen
I have
asleep and
gotten
said
to
100
know,
things wrong.
Alexis Nungary from Houston. Wonderful woman. Last June, Alexis's 12-year-old daughter, her precious Jocelyn, walked to a nearby convenience store. She was kidnapped, tied up, assaulted for 2 hours under a bridge, and horrifically murdered. Arrested and charged with this heinous crime are 2 illegal alien monsters from Venezuela, released into America by the last administration through their ridiculous open border. The death of this beautiful 12-year-old girl and the agony of her mother and family touched our entire nation greatly. Alexis, I promised that we would always remember your daughter, your magnificent daughter, and earlier tonight, I signed an order keeping my word to you. One thing I have learned about Jocelyn is that she loved animals so much. She loved nature. Across Galveston Bay, from where Jocelyn lived in Houston, you will find a magnificent national wildlife refuge, a pristine, peaceful, 34,000-acre sanctuary for all of God's creatures on the edge of the Gulf of America. Alexis, moments ago, I formally renamed that refuge in loving memory of your beautiful daughter, Jocelyn. So, Mr. Vice President, if you would...
Being drawn and
may I
quartered
have
is
the order?
certainly... Well, what's he doing here? Is he signing an executive order? Already signed.
Thank you very much. All 3 savages charged with Jocelyn and Lakin's murders were members of the Venezuelan prison gang, the toughest gang, they say, in the world, known as Tren de Aragua. 2 weeks ago, I officially designated this gang, along with MS-13 and the bloodthirsty Mexican drug cartels, as foreign terrorist organizations. They are now officially in the same category as ISIS, and that's not good for them. Countless thousands of these terrorists were welcomed into the U.S. by the Biden administration.
Yeah, I don't have an issue doing that with foreign gangs, but I would feel if he or anyone in our country did that with domestic gangs. But hey, I'd love to hear your point, your opinion on that.
Because we don't want them to come back ever. With us this evening is a warrior on the front lines of that battle, Border Patrol Agent Roberto Ortiz. Great guy.
Looks like a great guy. Definitely buy him a beer. Yeah, I mean, you could argue that any Comanchero is non-New Zealand chapter,
Another agent were patrolling by the Rio
given
Grande,
that they...
near an area known
I mean,
as
that's the thing, I always feel a bit iffy with gangs, but the way that gangs are in, you know, South America and how the damage they do the US,
Roberto saw
It's
that
quite a
his
bit different
partner
to what you
was
see
totally
here, so
exposed, at great danger, and he leapt into action, returning fire and providing crucial
really is
seconds
case by
for his
case.
fellow agent to seek safety, just barely. I have some of the prints of that event, and it was not good. Agent Ortiz, we salute you for your great courage and for your line of fire that you took and for the bravery that you showed. We honor you, and we will always honor you. Thank you, Roberto, very much.
Well, yeah, I mean, Nayib Bukele is doing some good work. At the same time, he is doing it through a very authoritarian manner, which just doesn't fly in liberal democracies.
And I actually got to know him on my many calls to the border. He's a great gentleman. The territory to the immediate south of our border is now dominated entirely by criminal cartels that murder, rape, torture, and exercise total control. They have total control over a whole nation, posing a grave threat to our national security. The cartels are waging war in America, and it's time for America to wage war on the cartels, which we are doing.
Either J.D. Vance is quite tall or Mike Johnson's pretty short.
5 nights
That's
ago,
crikey.
Mexican authorities, because of our tariff policies being imposed on them, think of this, handed over to us 29 of the biggest cartel leaders in their country. That has never happened
Oh, yeah, he's
before.
quite
They
tall.
want to make us happy. First time ever.
He's 6'2",
But we
188
need Mexico and
centimeters.
Canada to do much more than they've
To
done.
be fair,
They
so's
have to
Musk,
stop
to be fair.
the fentanyl and drugs pouring into the USA. They're going to stop it. I have sent Congress a detailed funding request laying out exactly how we will eliminate these threats to protect.
There
our
ain't no
homeland
way
and
Mike Johnson's 6 foot.
complete the largest deportation operation in American
Oh, yeah, no, that's
history,
the
larger
football
even
player.
than current record holder, President Dwight D. Eisenhower, a moderate man, but someone who believed very strongly in borders. Americans expect Congress to send me this funding without delay so I can sign it into law. So, Mr. Speaker, John Thune, both of you, I hope you.
Some people were saying like 5'7", maybe.
Thank you.
That tracks.
Mr. Leader,
Because I'm
thank you.
5'10".
Thank you very much. And let's get it to me. I'll sign it so fast, you won't even believe it. And as we reclaim our sovereignty, we must also bring back law and order to our cities and towns. In recent years, our justice system has been turned upside down by radical left lunatics. Many jurisdictions virtually ceased enforcing the law against dangerous repeat offenders while weaponizing law enforcement against political opponents like me. My administration has acted swiftly and decisively to restore fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law, starting at the FBI and the DOJ. Pam, good luck. Cash, wherever you may be, good luck. Good luck. Pam Bondi, good luck. So important. Going to do a great job. Cash, thank you. Thank you, Cash. They've already started very strong. They're going to do a fantastic job. You're going to be very proud of them. We're also once again giving our police officers the support, protection, and respect they so dearly deserve. They have to get it. They have such a hard, dangerous job, but we're going to make it less dangerous. The problem is the bad guys don't respect the law, but they're starting to respect it, and they soon will.
Actually,
respect
Kez, real quick. Are you
This
related
also
to any
includes our
Wyatt
great
Scowns,
fire
like as in
departments throughout
Wyatt
the country.
dash
Our
Scown?
firemen and women
Hyphen
are
Scown?
unbelievable people, and we'll never forget them. And besides that, they voted for me in record numbers, so I have no choice. One year ago this month, 31-year-old New York police officer Jonathan Diller, unbelievably wonderful person and a great officer, was gunned down at a traffic stop on Long Island. I went to his funeral. The vicious criminal charged with his murder had 21 prior arrests, and they were rough arrests, too. He was a real bad one. The thug in the seat next to him had 14 prior arrests and went by the name of Killer. He was Killer. He killed other people, they say, a lot of them. I attended Officer Diller's service, and when I met his wife and one-year-old son, Ryan, it was very inspirational, actually. His widow's name is Stephanie, and she is here tonight. Stephanie, thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you very much. Stephanie, we're going to make sure that Ryan knows his dad was a true...
I have no idea where we would have been if Hillary had won in 2016. Probably in a pretty dark place, to be fair.
And repeat offenders off our streets, so we're going to do it fast. Got to stop it. They get out with 28 arrests. They push people into subway trains. They hit people over the head, back of the head with baseball bats. We got to get them out of here. I've already signed an executive order requiring a mandatory death penalty for anyone who murders a police officer. And tonight I'm asking Congress to pass that policy into permanent law.
That's wild.
I'm also asking for a new crime bill getting tough on repeat offenders while enhancing protections for America's police officers so they can do their jobs without fear of their lives being totally destroyed. They don't want to be killed. We're not going to let them be killed. Joining us in the gallery tonight is a young man who truly loves our police. His name is DJ Daniel. He is 13 years old, and he has always dreamed of becoming a police officer. But in 2018, DJ was diagnosed with brain cancer. The doctors gave him 5 months at most to live. That was more than 6 years ago. Since that time, DJ and his dad have been on a quest to make his dream come true, and DJ has been sworn in as an honorary law enforcement officer, actually a number of times. The police love him, the police departments love him. And tonight, DJ, we're going to do you the biggest honor of them all. I am asking our new Secret Service Director, Sean Curran, to officially make you an agent of the United States Secret Service.
Wait, what? He just made a kid a member of the Secret Service. That's hilarious. to be fair, probably would do a much better job than those losers in bloody Butler, Pennsylvania. There you go. Latest member of the United States Secret Service. Officially a government agent. Working for free, too. The left will, if we had any, like, actual satirical left-wing companies, they would say Trump brings back slavery. To appoint this chap here.
Thank you, DJ. DJ's doctors believe his cancer likely came from a chemical he was exposed to when he was younger. Since 1975, rates of child cancer have increased by more than 40%. Reversing this trend is one of the top priorities for our new presidential commission to make America healthy again, chaired by our new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr.
RFK is certainly going to do more for that sort of issue than any of the other losers they could have appointed. No Democrat health secretary is going to give a shit about child cancer. The last guy that's in the pocket of pharmaceuticals is the man on screen just there.
With the name Kennedy, you would have thought everybody over here would have been cheering. How quickly they forget. Our goal is to get toxins out of our environment, poisons out of our food supply, and keep our children healthy and strong. As an example, not long ago, and you can't even believe these numbers, 1 in 10,000 children had autism, 1 in 10,000, and now it's 1 in 36. There's something wrong, 1 in 36, think of that. So we're going to find out what it is, and there's nobody better than Bobby and all of the people that are working with you. You have the best to figure out what is going on. Okay, Bobby, good luck. It's a very important job. Thank you. Go get him. Thank you. My administration is also working to protect our children from toxic ideologies in our schools. A few years ago, January Littlejohn and her husband discovered that their daughter's school had secretly socially transitioned their 13-year-old little girl. Teachers and administrators.
You have immense respect for RFK Jr. Yeah, hard not to. I mean, the guy decided to put his own political views aside to work for the betterment of the American health system. Health system. Like, come on.
All without telling January, who is here tonight and is now a courageous advocate against this form of child abuse. January, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I wonder if Sleepy Joe's at home watching this with his MAGA hat on.
Shortly after taking office, I signed an executive order banning public schools from indoctrinating our children with transgender ideology. I also signed an order to cut off all taxpayer funding to any institution that engages in the sexual mutilation of our youth.
Knowing his dad and uncle were done by the three-letter agencies, he's brave, 100%. 100%. They know they've still got too much heat on them for those two, so they're trying to go about every other means of dealing with them by trying to slander him and discredit him for the last however long. But hasn't worked. They took a risk trying to get rid of Trump too, failed.
Is that you are perfect exactly the way God made you.
Little Marco.
Because we're getting wokeness out of our schools and out of our military, and it's already out, and it's out of our society. We don't want it. Wokeness is trouble. wokeness is bad. It's gone. It's gone. And we feel so much better for it, don't we? Don't we feel better? Our service members won't be activists and ideologues. They will be fighters and warriors. They will fight for our country. And Pete, congratulations. Secretary of Defense, congratulations. And he's not big into the woke movement, I can tell you. I know him well. I am pleased to report that in January, the U.S. Army had its single best recruiting month in 15 years, and that all armed services are having among the best recruiting results ever in the history of our services. What a difference. And you know, it was just a few months ago where the results were exactly the opposite. We couldn't recruit anywhere. We couldn't recruit. Now we're having the best results just about that we've ever had. What a tremendous turnaround. It's really a beautiful thing to see. People love our country again. It's very simple. They love our country, and they love being in our military again. So it's a great thing, and thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. We're joined tonight by a young man, Jason Hartley, who knows the weight of that call of duty. Jason's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all wore the uniform. Jason tragically lost his dad, who was also a Los Angeles County Sheriff's deputy when he was just a boy, and now he wants to carry on the family legacy of service. Jason is a senior in high school, a 6-letter varsity athlete, a really good athlete, they say, a brilliant student with a 4.46, that's good, GPA. And his greatest dream is to attend the U.S. Military Academy at West Point. 0.4. And Jason, that's a very big deal getting in. That's a hard one to get into. But I'm pleased to inform you that your application has been accepted. You will soon be joining the Corps of Cadets. Thank you. Jason, you're going to be on the long gray line, Jason. As Commander-in-Chief, my focus is on building the most powerful military of the future. As a first step, I'm asking Congress to fund a state-of-the-art Golden Dome missile defense shield to protect our homeland, all made in the USA. And Ronald Reagan wanted to do it long ago, but the technology just wasn't there, not even close. But now we have the technology. It's incredible, actually. And other places, they have it. Israel has it. Other places have it. And the United States should have it too, right, Tim, right? They should have it too. So I want to thank you. But it's a very, very important. This is a very dangerous world. We should have it. We want to be protected, and we're going to protect our citizens like never before. To boost our defense industrial base, we are also going to resurrect the American shipbuilding industry, including commercial shipbuilding and military shipbuilding. And for that purpose, I am announcing tonight that we will create a new Office of Shipbuilding in the White House and offer special tax incentives to bring this industry home to America where it belongs. We used to make so many ships. We don't make them anymore very much, but we're going to make them very fast, very soon. It will have a huge impact. To further enhance our national security, my administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal, and we've already started doing it. Just today, a large American company announced they are buying both ports around the Panama Canal and lots of other things having to do with the Panama Canal and a couple of other canals. The Panama Canal was built by Americans for Americans, not for others, but others could use it. But it was built at tremendous cost of American blood and treasure. 38,000 workers died building the Panama Canal. They died of malaria. They died of snake bites and mosquitoes. Not a nice place to work. They paid them very highly to go there, knowing there was a 25% chance that they would die. The most expensive project also that was ever built in our country's history, if you bring it up to modern day costs. It was given away by the Carter administration for $1. But that agreement has been violated very severely. We didn't give it to China. We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back. And we have Marco Rubio in charge. Good luck,
Little Marco.
Now, we know who to blame if anything goes wrong. Marco's been amazing, and he's going to do a great job. Think of it. He got 100 votes. You know, he was approved with actually 99, but the 100th was this gentleman, and I feel very certain. So let's assume he got 100 votes. And I'm either very, very happy about that or I'm very concerned about it. But he's already proven. I mean, he's a great gentleman. He's respected by everybody, and we appreciate you voting for Marco. He's going to do a fantastic job. Thank you. Thank you. He's doing a great job. Great job. And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it.
He's just teasing. He's just trolling.
Safe. We will make you rich, and together we will take
I can tell you right now,
like you have never thought
the media are going to ignore the first thing he said about it.
Small population, but very, very large piece of land and very, very important for military security. America is once again standing strong against the forces of radical Islamic terrorism. 3.5 years ago, ISIS terrorists killed 13 American service members and countless others in the Abbey Gate bombing during the disastrous and incompetent withdrawal from Afghanistan. Not that they were withdrawing, it was the way they withdrew. Perhaps the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. Tonight I am pleased to announce that we have just apprehended the top terrorist responsible for that atrocity, and he is right now on his way here to face the swift sword of American justice. And I want to thank especially the government of Pakistan for helping arrest this monster. This was a very momentous day for those 13 families who I actually got to know very well, most of them, whose children were murdered, and the many people that were so badly, over 42 people, so badly injured on that fateful day in Afghanistan. What a horrible day. Such incompetence was shown that when Putin saw what happened, I guess he said, wow, maybe this is my chance. That's how bad it was. Should have never happened. Grossly incompetent people. I spoke to many of the parents and loved ones, and they're all in our hearts tonight. Just spoke to them on the phone. We had a big call. Every one of them called, and everybody was on the line, and they did nothing but cry with happiness. They were very happy, as happy as you can be under those circumstances. Their child, brother, sister, son, daughter was killed for no reason whatsoever. In the Middle East, we're bringing back our hostages from Gaza. In my first term, we achieved one of the most groundbreaking peace agreements in generations, the Abraham Accords.
I wonder how Rubio took those things. Oh, he'll be fine, man. If he could handle the little Marco jokes from 2016 and 2015, and all these years later be willing to work with the Trump administration, he'll be fine.
More peaceful and prosperous future for the entire.
Does raise eyebrows that the Democrats voted for him so heavily, though.
I've been talking about that so much lately with everything going on with Ukraine and Russia, but a lot of things are happening in the Middle East. It's a rough neighborhood, actually. I'm also working tirelessly to end the savage conflict in Ukraine. Millions of Ukrainians and Russians have been needlessly killed or wounded in this horrific and brutal conflict with no end in sight. The United States has sent
That's the key word there,
billions of dollars
or the key
to
phrase.
support
No end in sight.
Ukraine's defense, with no security, with no anything. Do you want to keep it going for another 5 years? Yeah, you would say Pocahontas says yes.
Elizabeth Warren, eh? Warhol.
2,000 people are being killed every single week. More than that. They're Russian young people. They're Ukrainian young people. They're not Americans. But I want.
Well, exactly. They don't actually care about America over on that side of the house.
Sadly, spent more money buying Russian oil and gas than they have spent on defending Ukraine by far. Think of that.
If you tuned into the Eric and Simon show on last Wednesday, you would have heard me make that exact point.
And we've spent perhaps $350
Clearly,
billion
Trump's been watching.
Like taking candy from a baby. That's what happened. And they've spent $100 billion. What a difference that is. And we have an ocean separating us, and they don't. But we're getting along very well with them, and lots of good things are happening. Biden has authorized more money in this fight than Europe has spent by billions and billions of dollars. It's hard to believe that they wouldn't have stopped it and said at some point, come on, let's
One stat I found interesting was the US has sent 4 million rounds of ammunition versus the whole of the Europe, or at least the European Union, which only have sent 1 million rounds.
Bring lasting peace closer.
Wild.
Nobody wants peace more than the Ukrainians, he said. My team and I stand ready to work under President Trump's strong leadership to get a peace that lasts. We do really value how much America has done to help Ukraine maintain its sovereignty and independence. Regarding the agreement on minerals and security, Ukraine is ready to sign it at any time that is convenient for you. I appreciate that he sent this letter, just got it a little while ago. Simultaneously,
yeah, I do wish people had a little bit more love for our flag. Speaking of which,
that they are ready for peace. Wouldn't that be beautiful? Wouldn't that be beautiful?
The reason I haven't actually got this backdrop today is because I'm wearing a black shirt. Doesn't work very well. I don't have my green screen yet, so... but yeah, love that. I'll switch back to this for now.
It's time to stop this madness. It's time to halt the killing. It's time to end the senseless war. If you want to end wars, you have to talk to both sides. Nearly 4 years ago,
the background, you've got like the bluish black on the screen. That's just a Union Jack, but
and sentenced to 14
well,
years
technically,
in a penal colony.
it's
The previous administration barely lifted a finger to help him. They knew he was innocent, but they had
I'll
no
show you what's
idea where to
underneath it.
begin. But last summer, I promised his 95-year-old mother, Malphine,
Technically, it's that, but
that we would bring her boy safely back home. After 22 days in office, I did just that, and they are here tonight.
Bloody hell, Trump can talk, can't he? But he's cognitively impaired, the Democrats say. Yeah, I don't think so.
To Mark and his great mom, we are delighted to have you safe and sound and with us. As fate would have it, Mark Fogel was born in a small rural town in Butler, Pennsylvania. Have you heard of it? Where his mother has lived for the past 78 years. I just happened to go there last July 13th for a rally. That was not pleasant. And that is where I met his beautiful mom right before I walked onto that stage. And I told her I would not forget what she said about her son. And I never did I? Never forgot. Less than 10 minutes later, at that same rally, gunfire rang out, and a sick and deranged assassin unloaded 8 bullets from his sniper's perch into a crowd of many thousands of people. My life was saved by a fraction of an inch, but some were not so lucky. Corey Comparator was a firefighter, a veteran, a Christian, a husband, a devoted father, and above all, a protector. When the sound of gunshots pierced the air, it was a horrible sound. Corey knew instantly what it was and what to do. He threw himself on top of his wife and daughters and shielded them from the bullets with his own body. Corey was hit really hard. You know the story from there. He sacrificed his life to save theirs. 2 others, very fine people, were also seriously hit. But thankfully, with the help of 2
those 3-letter agencies.
country doctors, we thought they were gone, and they were saved.
No remorse
So
from them.
those doctors had great talent. We're joined by Corey's wife, Helen, who was his high school sweetheart, and their 2 beloved daughters, Allison and Kaylee. Thank you.
I think it still wasn't that long ago, you know? Like, my uncle died nearly 2 years ago now, probably about 18 months ago now. Bloody hell, that still hits.
To Helen, Allison, and Kaylee, Corey is looking down on his 3 beautiful ladies right now, and he is cheering you on. He loves you. He is cheering you on. Corey was taken from us much too soon, but his destiny was to leave us all with a shining example of the selfless devotion of a true American patriot. It was love like Corey's that built our country, and it's love like Corey's that is going to make our country more majestic than ever before. I believe that my life was saved that day in Butler for a very good reason. I was saved by God to make America great again. I believe that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. From the patriots of Lexington and Concord to the heroes of Gettysburg and Normandy, from the warriors who crossed the Delaware to the trailblazers who climbed the Rockies, and from the legends who soared at Kitty Hawk to the astronauts who touched the moon, Americans have always been the people who defied all odds, transcended all dangers, made the most extraordinary sacrifices, and did whatever it took to defend our children, our country, and our freedom. And as we have seen in this chamber tonight, that same strength, faith, love, and spirit is still alive and thriving in the hearts of the American people. Despite the best efforts of those who would try to censor us, silence us, break us, destroy us, Americans are today a proud, free, sovereign, and independent nation that will always be free, and we will fight for it till death. We will never let anything happen to our beloved country, because we are a country of doers, dreamers, fighters, and survivors. Our ancestors crossed a vast ocean, strode into the unknown wilderness, and carved their fortunes from the rock and soil of a perilous and very dangerous frontier. They chased our destiny across a boundless continent. They built the railroads, laid the highways, and graced the world with American marvels like the Empire State Building, the mighty Hoover Dam,
100% woke.
and the towering Golden Gate Bridge. They lit the world with electricity, broke free of the force of gravity, fired up the engines of American industry, vanquished the communists, fascists, and Marxists all over the world, and gave us countless modern wonders sculptured out of iron, glass, and steel. We stand on the shoulders of these pioneers who won and built the modern age. These workers who poured their sweat into the skylines of our cities. These warriors who shed their blood on fields of battle and gave everything they had for our rights and for our freedom. Now it is our time to take up the righteous cause of American liberty. And it is our turn to take America's destiny into our own hands and begin the most thrilling days in the history of our country. This will be our greatest era. With God's help, over the next 4 years, we are going to lead this nation even higher, and we are going to forge the freest, most advanced, most dynamic, and most dominant civilization ever to exist on the face of this earth. We are going to create the highest quality of life, build the safest and wealthiest and healthiest and most vital communities anywhere in the world. We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we are going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond. And through it all, we are going to rediscover the unstoppable power of the American spirit. And we are going to renew unlimited promise of the American dream. Every single day, we will stand up and we will fight, fight, fight for the country our citizens believe in and for the country our people deserve. My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future because the golden age of America has only just begun. It will be like nothing that has ever been seen before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
I'm convinced they will throw something at him, but God bless him for trying. Fair enough. Ken Brown says at least Trump makes shit happen. That he does. Well, that was good. Buddy, how he can talk. Biden would have fallen asleep real quick. He would have fallen asleep real quick. Crikey dick. Alright, give me 1 second, people. Turn this a smidge. Alrighty. Alright. Let's quickly open up X, I think. Wherever that is hiding. Honestly, my PC upgrade can't come soon enough. It's going way too slow for my liking. Bruh, why is this all of a sudden decided to alert me whenever I'm getting chats? Pain in the asshole. Alright, there we go. I want it to be quiet. Oh well, for now. I'll just have to put up with it. I think I just do that. Should be okay. We shall see. Anyways. Alrighty. Oh, by the way, if you are an NBA fan, I'm very happy about this. Anyhow, if you didn't see, I recently updated my X banner. Isn't that nice? Something simple, Auckland in the background with a New Zealand flag. Obviously the Eric McRae show is returning soon. Mainly waiting on a green screen, then I'll give that a practice run. Simplified it, didn't bother with all my links. You've got all the links you need right there at link.bio/Eric McRae. The Eric and Simon show, unfortunately isn't on tonight at 8:30 p.m. But we should be back next week. No problems. It's just a bit of a this week thing. Woke6 says, I like NBA, but it's not at its peak at the moment. Yeah, I suppose I typically only watch playoff time. I kind of just keep tabs. Luka trade was criminal. That it was indeed. Luka trade was indeed criminal. And now the Mavs have got a Kyrie Irving with a torn ACL and an Anthony Davis who's half broken. You prefer baseball? I can't say I've ever watched a full game of baseball in my life. I just don't get it. It's far too long for me. NBA is rigged. Well, to some degrees, you may have to think that's true. Maybe that was this whole Jimmy Butler trade to the Golden State Warriors just to make everything interesting again. I'm not complaining. I've followed them for 10 years now. Yeah. But yes. How are we going? So, quickly take this down. I did see that Winston Peters made a comment just before he said this. Oh, I clicked on the wrong post, although this is funny. How funny is this, right? Leftist wah men misspelling Jacinda as Jacinta is disrespectful and sexist. Also leftist women. Luxton, yeah, great point, isn't it? But no, it's what Winston Peters said earlier. Today, the Herald has published an article on sociologist Dr. Jared Gilbert's new report commissioned by Corrections, stating a new report is calling for gang members to be segregated in New Zealand prisons to combat their significant and problematic influence over inmates. What is not surprising is that nowhere in that article does it mention that New Zealand First campaigned in 2023 on this very policy of establishing separate gang prisons, and at the time we were pilloried by the media and experts alike. Perhaps that's why they can't bring themselves to mention it now. You don't need experts or expensive commissioned reports to understand gang members in prisons need to be segregated away from non-gang members. You just need common sense. Yeah, and I actually remember going back to that to the campaign, how much the media and experts ridiculed them for this policy, saying it's just ridiculous. They just want to spend heaps of money to, build more prisons and segregate people that there's no evidence to support that would work and all this nonsense. Just giving them shit for it, right? But here we are, so-called experts calling for segregation of gang members within prisons. Frankly, I don't oppose it, though I don't think the segregation should be based on gang membership per se, but rather we can implement this in a different way, which kind of has the same effect, but is a little bit more needs-based, or less than, not necessarily needs-based, but in a way that's a little bit more streamlined and thought through. So if you don't know, I've kind of had in the back, in kind of my back pocket, a plan for reforming the justice system for many years now, that I don't elaborate on too often because I'm kind of, it's in my back pocket for a rainy day, you could say. I'm not going to give politicians those ideas unless they're actually interested in listening to them, but I'll give you a quick overview here. It's more of, they need to reform the justice system so that it's tiered, so that you incentivize reform, because if you don't incentivize reform, they're not going to bother. So you need to tier the justice system in a particular way where those who are interested in reforming aren't forced to be involved in their day-to-day lives within the prison system with these people who just want to stay gang members, who want to continue acting like antisocial dickheads. And so what you need to do is you need to set up the prison so that there are different tiers, essentially. So rather than just you're either, lower or, low security, minimum security, high security, and so forth, that's part of the whole system. But rather than it being strictly speaking based on security classification, it changes so that, okay, you've taken these steps, you've participated in these programs, you've participated in the various things that have been laid out for you to complete in order to continue on your reintegration or rehabilitative process. So now that, along with your behavior, has opened up the door for you to go into this section of the prison. Now that you're in this section of the prison, that comes with even more opportunities. It comes with less restriction, but it also comes with more expectation. In order to stay here, you have to continue, and you have to uphold the expectations. And if you fail to do that, you'll be pushed back down to where you previously came from. And it goes on like that. So in order to progress from the bottom station or the bottom tier, you need to be giving up any of your connection to gangs at all, completely. And until you do that, you simply are not going to progress. And so that incentivizes rejecting your gang membership. Now, of course, you may secretly retain that gang membership, but the more and more you progress through the tiers, the less and less likely you're going to want to. And it'll be pretty bloody obvious anyway. I mean, people in prison aren't ignorant as to whether or not you're a gang member. It's not exactly the easiest thing to just turn that gang membership switch off. And once you're released, it might not necessarily happen, but whilst in the prison system, you can certainly go a long ways as to distancing yourself from gangs and the negative behaviors within the system that are associated with that. We all know they do programs to get out on early on good behavior. Yes and no. You'd be surprised how much they don't actually do that. So the more the top dogs, certainly the kind of prospects and those who are younger, they don't have that discipline. And part of the problem is you can say that they just try and be good to get out on early behavior all you like, but a lot of them just aren't wired that way. They just don't have the ability to actually behave themselves. And so the important aspect here is it's not only a tiered system based purely on you meeting your obligations, but it's a tiered system based on the actual risks that you pose based on your offense itself. So it's not strictly speaking segregating people from violent and non-violent crimes, but rather if you haven't committed a violent crime, you by default go into a different unit. And then based on your behavior in there, you are then kind of dealt with. So you could call it that there are, kind of short-term units that people who have just committed a crime, who have just been locked up, will go into based on that offense. But you could also look at it as it's a place that you go where, look, here is a good starting point. We're not going to expose you to violence if you're not a violent offender. We're going to try and keep you away from our violent offenders anyway. And then we're going to assess how you behave, assess what you're participating in, what your general behavior is like. And then from there, we're going to establish what the pathway for you is. Is the pathway going to start off in that kind of lower tier where people just aren't interested in engaging with programs? Are you going to start there, or are you going to start a little bit further up, a bit further along the way? And this way you're incentivizing good behavior. You're not unnecessarily exposing people to the bad behavior. But yeah, it's complicated. Ken says, I wish I got that. I was put straight into a gang unit because of where I was from. Yeah, it's difficult. I know for me, I was a little bit lucky that I started in youth justice. Or you could call that lucky. You could also call that unlucky. It was lucky for me because it exposed me to a lot of the behaviors, the way they think, the way they behave, the way they react to certain things. And got me accustomed to that mindset and how to interact and how to kind of navigate the culture. And so when I eventually did get transferred into the adult system, I went straight into, well, the Mount Eden Youth Wing, which is basically just mainstream with people under the age of 20. So, it is what it is. Whilst there, was still awaiting sentencing, so I just kind of stuck to myself. I didn't spend a whole lot of time out of my cell until I was sentenced, and then I started going out with the sentence crowd because the sentence crowd has a lot more to lose. So after that, I came out all the time. It was fine. And then I was transferred to Hawke's Bay and integrated fine there. And, was a regular. And I was fortunate enough to spend a good chunk of that time in the youth unit again. And people have to remember, just because it's a youth unit doesn't mean it's not mainstream. It's not mainstream in the sense you don't have the seasoned criminals who are, members of, adult gangs, or who have been for a long time and have a lot of sway. Yeah, Mangaroa, 100%. They don't have a lot of sway, but these are still some very troubled young people who are extremely violent, in many cases more violent, and do have a strong gang connections as well. So these people aren't, these aren't just children. These are, 17, 18, 19, even 20-year-olds who are very dangerous and, who will threaten you, who will attack you. And so, yeah, there are many situations that are extremely frightening and extremely dangerous, and you have a lot of really, really bad influences. You have exposure to drugs, you have exposure to this and that. So whilst it's short, it's an age limit on it. It's not too dissimilar from other units. And from there, I was fortunate enough to go to self-care because I played my cards right. But also spent enough, a few months in just standard mainstream as well, as recently as 2021. So, I mean, I've had experience in kind of all areas with the exception of segregation. I never went there. So, yeah. Adult mainstream and youth mainstream, it's not much different. Though I'm sure if you spend enough time in adult mainstream and don't make the right decisions, it's not pleasant. But yeah, it's interesting. You say, I met a lot of young people incarcerated for repeat drink driving and ended it in Unit 7 and in gangs. Yeah, I mean, that is the problem. And that's why you do need you need to have, I think, a more structured approach to where you put people based on their offences, based on the severity of their offences, and based on how they're behaving. If they are coming in for, let's say, fraud, and they're behaving like absolute, nutters who just want to abuse people, then fair enough, chuck them in with the mainstream lot who are, who are in the high security units. But if they're just, if they're just some guy who's coming for fraud, has never been exposed to this kind of stuff, who is, let's go even less severe than fraud. Let's just say you're some guy, as you've said, for drink driving, aren't a particularly violent person, never been exposed to this kind of culture, this kind of behavior. You shouldn't be thrown into the deep end. You should be put into a observation unit with a bunch of reasonably normal people, and then put in a unit with a bunch of people who are only going to help you reform, not people who are going to just make your life hell. Kez says, I find it crack up how in NZ it's legal to have an open beer and drink it while driving as long as you're under the limit. Hey, frankly, I don't have a problem with that either, as long as you're under the limit. I certainly don't think you should be drinking. I don't think you should have an issue with having it open, but yeah. Certainly not. Anyhow, that was good from Winston Peters. I agree there. There are many ways we could go about it, but that on its own is better than the status quo. Better than the status quo. I found it interesting earlier, but when we're watching Question Time, the Greens or whatever, they're going on about social workers, and I'm like, okay, you could say that perhaps the government employed social workers may have gone down a bit, but the actual number of social workers that have gone up since this government came in is around 1,200, I believe. So, yeah. Very interesting. Joe Trinder, obviously, if you don't know who Joe Trinder is, don't bother learning. He says today, the people demanding the end of school lunches were the ones at school that mummy and daddy gave lunch money to. They didn't have to eat dry Marmite sandwiches lathered with plastic margarine that tasted like shit. Excuse me, I quite enjoy that margarine, thank you very much. They want to kill the school lunch program because they hate children. See, Joe Trinder, he's very, very good at getting attention, right? And good at getting comments and replies, and I'm part of the problem there. But just how nonsensical is that? I mean, the people demanding the end of school lunches were the ones at school that mummy and daddy gave lunch money to. Meanwhile, the people actually taking issue with and wanting it into the school lunches were the average middle-class people who had Marmite sandwiches, who had a piece of fruit and maybe a muesli bar or something. And that was their lunch. I was one of those people. And quite frankly, I've got absolutely no issue with the cheap plastic margarine and Marmite. I'll eat that right now if I have to. I try not to because I'm trying to be as carnivore as possible. If you saw me at the start of the stream, I was eating sausages. Those probably aren't the best for you, but it's better than bread. So, yeah. So, yeah, he's really good at getting attention, but yeah, it's what it is. Also, I do need to stop and go edit this video. I made a video talking about Richard Prebble resigning from the Waitangi Tribunal today. So that'll be uploaded later, probably by 7, if I can help it. So yeah, resigned from the Waitangi Tribunal today, given the fact that they are a bunch of ideologically captured nutters. That's probably the best way to give a quick synopsis of what he said. Ideologically captured nutters, I'm out. That's pretty much what happened. And it's a pity, because he was only there a few months, and we really needed someone like him in that role to kind of keep tabs on what's going on. Also, Adrian Orr resigned as the Reserve Bank guy, so that's good. That's a very, very good. Also, the latest member of the Secret Service. Latest member of the Secret Service. Very good. AOC couldn't make it here tonight. She had some important things to do. Anyhow, people, we have been going 3 hours and 20 minutes. Unless you've got anything you want me to cover real quick, I think we will more or less call it quits there. How's this for Jeremiah? Office tidied as well. Very productive so far. If that's a tidy office, I mean, it's probably a little bit tidier than mine, to be fair, so I cannot criticize that at all. And I'm loving the Batmobile on the desk. Very good. As you can see by my Twitter feed, I've got a bit of diversity here. WWE fan. Crikey, she got banged up, didn't she? I'm sick of this guy. Who was this? I found a retard. Yep, looks about right. Democrats couldn't stand for a child who survived brain cancer. I think that's a good place to leave it, isn't it? The Democrats would not even stand and give props to a child who survived brain cancer. How do you view X in light mode? Without exposing anything. I believe you can do it just like... I believe it is as simple as going into accessibility. Yeah. But I can put it lights out if I want. If I am going to do it, I typically go dim. Okay, that is a bit... Yeah, we'll go dim for now. And on phone, I think it's even easier. But yeah. See, now that I've got this background, I probably should. The reason I liked the light mode before is because of the off-white color I had on my banner. But now that I don't have the off-white, kind of works with this a lot better. Oh, how do you view X in light mode? Oh, it hurts your eyes. No, I think I've got it on light mode on my phone as well. I'm just going to quickly check. Oh, no. It's dark. It's dark on my phone. I switch it just because I get bored, to be honest. I get bored. But yeah, usually I don't go full black mode or dark mode because it annoys me. I kind of like this dim mode if I'm going to do it. And this kind of works with my new banner now anyways, so will work. Just a reminder, people, no Eric and Simon show tonight. Just couldn't make it happen with a few things. But should be back next week, no problems. And so I thought I'd make up for it with this today. But yes, I do need to go off and edit the latest video, which I'll be uploading hopefully by 7ish. That'll be on YouTube, and I'll upload it to Patreon as well. If you aren't following me on Patreon, I do recommend it. It's all free. You get all my polling updates all in one place. You can go back and look at them. Got pretty much everything. As many of the videos as I can uploaded there. And I think I'm going to start... It just gives you notifications as well, which is kind of useful. And as certain things happen, like I know ahead of the US election, I did a lot of updates on there. So yeah. Goodness gracious, got a lot of crybabies in here. Alrighty. So anyhow, oh, Kez says I'm waiting for Grok Voice Unhinged, still on Android. Oh yeah. Yeah, have you got the Grok beta app downloaded? I have. I haven't used it too much yet. I'm a bit annoyed that it's not that good at generating imagery that I want. I wanted it to generate some fantasy F1 liveries for me, but it doesn't get the memo. It's not very good. But yeah, for all the other sort of stuff that you want it to do, especially the text-based stuff, it's very good. I like. I need to rely on it a bit more, I think. Yeah. Hearing that people are like coding full-blown apps with it, I just wouldn't know how to save myself, how to do most of that shit. So I can't be bothered learning. Wow. This is interesting. I'll pass on tonight's State of the Union. I've already seen it on the History Channel. Having just watched it, people, that's a nonsensical post. A nonsensical post. You use it weekly to do coding? Fair enough, yeah, it does appear to be pretty good for that. Does appear to be pretty good for that. Up the Golden State Warriors just defeated the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. That's how we do it, folks. 9-3 in the Butler era. Let's do it. 9-2 in the Butler era. Oh, let's do it. Anyhow, that'll do me, folks. Thank you very much. I'll be back. I don't know, sometime this week, I suspect. Thank you very much. Make sure to tune into the video later tonight. That'll be up. It's not too long. Probably only 8 or 9 minutes. Sweet. Cheers, Woke. Cheers, Kez. Cheers, Ken, and everyone else who joined in. Sorry, Alan, if you do happen to watch this back at another point, I didn't get to your question from earlier about the sanctions on Canada. All I would say there is it's all about leverage, and I think the leverage is going to be utilised effectively over the next 6 to 12 months. Cheers, folks, once again. Catch you all.